How you doing, Mollie?
I'm good. Thank you for having me always.
I'm glad you're here. So what's
Did
new?
you see that you made it into my book?
No,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. And there's a whole chat when I talk about leaving California, how it happened, all the whispers that God gave me to leave. One of them is you sitting drinking orange juice. I go through the whole thing of you saying that the last great hope for America is is the white redneck. And I'm like, this dude is crazy. And you gotta move. We gotta go to Texas. I'm going to Texas. You gotta go to Texas. I will mention that I am now in Texas 4 years later, and you are still in Atlanta.
How long you been in Texas?
I bought the land in 22, and I've been living here since the very end of 23.
Oh, so you bought the land the very next year.
Yeah. But in my book, when I talk about how this happened, I talk about this. That's why I was trying to get a pictures from that day, but we couldn't get any
Oh
quality
no.
pictures from that day.
So hold on. So you actually have me saying about the redneck?
Yeah. Infamously.
That's funny. Um,
You said
so
the
y'all,
last great hope for America. And then you said, this is all cool what you have here in California. But when the shit really hits the fan, you're going to look to the left and look to the right, and there's not going to be anybody to fight with you. And so you got to go to where the white rednecks are because they're the last great hope for America. Well, I'm deep in that
well,
country.
you're in hill country, right?
I'm in Hill Country, Texas. So yes, Blanchard made it in the book.
So can I ask what inspired you to write Debunked by Nature?
Well, people ask all the time, like, how does a vegan chef become a cattle rancher in Texas? Like, how does that happen? And sure, the first crack in the liberal armor was the veganism, right? But that was like the first crack, and then once that had cracked, I mean, that was my core identity. Was I was a vegan chef. I That was my core identity. I made my living this way. Everybody, like, if you explained who I was, like, oh, Chef Mollie, she's a vegan chef. Like, that is literally my core identity was this successful vegan chef. And so by me realizing veganism doesn't exist, there is no vegan food, it's a complete psyop. And then I had to look at the environmental movement and go, oh, well, literally, the veganism is just a small section of this bigger psyop. And that psyop is designed for us to not know that we belong here. Like, literally, we belong here. God put us here. We belong. And we have been indoctrinated to believe that we are a plague, a scourge, the problem on the planet. How we're behaving is a problem, but we are not the problem. Like, literally, prior to me and you talk about this a lot, prior to the 10 commandments, prior to anything, what happened is God put us in the garden and he asked us to tend to the land. And so when I got onto land and I started to tend to land, the veganism was the first thing that washed away. Like, I realized that's not real. It's not God's design. Nothing is vegan. Everything is consuming. Death is not a failure, but a function of life. So I start seeing that, but then I start, seeing all the rest of it. God's design is perfect. And we can only believe the crazy that we believe in the cities not being connected to God's design. And so as I'm having epiphany after epiphany after epiphany, and I'm like, I had 2 abortions and now I realize that's totally wrong. And did this and I got divorced and I realized that was not right. And all the things, and it's all really just like in God's design. And I'm like literally calling the host at the host stand a she because that's what they want to be called. But like, literally, if you put a gun to my head and asked me to tell the truth, I would be like, well, she has a dick. So, you know what I mean? Like, I was doing all the liberal stuff, right? And then I just saw that nature is God's design expressing, because the only other option is that it's the devil expressing. And I think we all can agree that it's not. And before your followers that love to call me a pagan, it's like, check out the Bible. Almost every parable is a farming parable. Nature is all through the Bible. Even regenerative agriculture and bringing in the sheep after they harvest the wheat. Like, so people do not need to call me a pagan because I see God in nature. Literally, the kingdom of heaven is within us. Like, we don't need to go to the church to worship. This is all, we all know that God is in nature, but for some reason, your followers love to call me a pagan on here. So I just want to say that is like, literally, God is in nature expressing all the time. And so when you look at it, you can, if we want to be truth seekers, be like, oh, does transgenderism exist in nature? No. Is there diversion of sexual behavior? Yes. Is there transgenderism where we abandon our roles as a mother or as a father? We abandon reproduction. We abandon those core things? Never. Like literally, it does not exist. Is there more masculine cows that jump on other cows? Yes. That protect the herd when the bull's not there? Yes. But her name's Camila. But you want to know what? Camila will submit and have a baby every single year. She just had a baby, like every year. So that is the difference. We have completely lost sight as mammals of like God's design. And although we're the most special mammal made in his image, we are also mammals, and we should like do the basics of like knowing that water, food, and reproduction is important.
Necessary.
And so I started to write all these ideas down, and then I was on a podcast for a publisher that has a podcast as well. And they were at the end of the podcast, they were like, "You're so interesting. Would you be willing to write a book for our publishing company?" And I said, "Sure." I have no idea. I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah." And so I wrote 7 chapters, and I sent it to them, and I said, "Do you guys like it?" And they were like, "We love it." They sent me a contract, and I wrote it so fast in 6 weeks. I got up at 4:00 in the morning, and from 4:00 until 6 a.m., I wrote this book every single morning while my kids were sleeping. Because I have 4 kids and I have a bunch of other businesses, so it was the only time I could do it.
And I think that's pretty amazing that you found the time to write a book, being a mother, well, being a wife, being a mother, being a farmer, being a business owner, being a leader, being a lot. So yeah, I think it's amazing that you actually wrote a book. And what I read in the book is actually good.
Actually good.
No, I'm saying because, people say they write books, but yours is actually thought-provoking. And somebody in here, Tierra, put, "That's true, God is a farmer." And I was going to say that. She said husbandry is a real thing. I was going to say that if we look at the Bible, a lot of it's centered around, planting something, watering it, nurturing it, and then making sure that it grows. It's like seed time and harvest is God's system. So God's system is very much in tune with farming, in tune with nature. I think Dayon said on here that God's divine nature is expressed through nature. And you think about it, Mollie, everything that we, put it this way, the planet doesn't actually need us to thrive. In all honesty, like the planet doesn't.
But see, that's part of that psyop. We don't know that. Here's the thing. If you are a believer, and I believe that you are a believer, we were put here as the keystone species. And there's lots of evidence that, for example, that the rainforest in the Amazon is a co-creation with man and nature. It's not just like a bunch of monkeys pooped out some seeds and then that's what we got. And so there's tons of evidence. Oh, sorry. There's tons of evidence that, for example, the buffalo that the Native Americans were not chasing the buffalo, but that the Native Americans were using fire to burn the old grass so new, fresh, juicy grass would come and they would call the buffalo in. There's tons of evidence that there is a co-creation that was going on. And like I said, God picked up dirt and he turned it into Adam. And then he breathed into Adam's nostrils and gave him life, and he put him in the garden. And the first thing he asked of him was to tend to the garden. So I don't know that the earth is going to be totally fine without us, because we don't actually know that that's part of the psyop. Like, oh, it'll be fine without you. There was dinosaurs, and the dinosaurs died, and then if we mess up, they're going to kill you like the nature will kill you like it killed the dinosaurs. I actually believe that we're in a firmament that was meant for man, that God made for us, and we are in his image.
I do believe that it's created for. This is my point. So I believe that we are supposed to be stewards of the planet. But God created the garden and everything before he created man. Like, we were created last. And I'm not saying that, I guess the word is not needed, but what I'm saying is that it's a divine purpose for us to be down here and actually mimicking what God does for us in heaven. So we're down here being stewards. We're down here being fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth and subdue it. So we actually have a duty. This is, and actually, to be honest with you, it's really character building, and it gets us closer to God, because you think about it, we can actually worship God through how we deal with the planet. So maybe I use the wrong word with need, but I'm not into the whole thing of where we're on the planet and we got to submit to the will of the planet. No, I'm not saying that we're worshiping Mother Earth. No, I'm not saying it at all. I'm saying that we have responsibility.
We do.
And I think the flip side of that is the extreme people. They love wanting human beings to be insignificant because they're maniacs, and they like all this sacrificing yourself for nonsense and not having a purpose, and just that's what they thrive off of. I don't agree with that at all.
Well,
but I was just saying that we have responsibility.
I think when we're weak, I mean, by not having a purpose, we're weak. Because think about, for example, your bones. If they are under pressure, then they create more bone, right? I almost lost this tooth when I was 23 years old from periodontal disease. And then I got braces and they moved all my teeth down and I regrew the bone. And now I'm 47 and I still have that tooth, right? Because under pressure of the braces, my bones grew, even though I was a grown-up, right? And so under pressure, our bones grow. Under pressure, our muscles grow. Honestly, we've created a culture where we're not under pressure. And so we are weak. And so, but in God's design, where we're growing our own food, where we're stewarding the earth, where we're working in animal husbandry and all of that, we are under pressure. And then we have purpose. And then we are the best expression of him, that we are the best expression of him.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Somebody said, stimulated student said, God did say there was no man to tend the ground. Real Talk Nikki says, God wanted us. We're not needed. And then somebody talking about communism and taxes. But anyway, but back to what we were saying about farming and the importance of it, and the book Debunked by Nature. And I think a lot of people, when it comes to the Bible and Christianity, because there's so much propaganda around being one with nature and being a tree hugger and being, because there's so much of a movement behind replacing God with nature, that people in the quote unquote church get leery when they hear things like God is in nature and God created nature and nature. Like, these kind of words trigger church people because they don't really connect God with nature, even though it's literally God created everything. They still is a disconnect between the actual planet, God creating the planet. There's a whole beginning of the book of the Bible is about God creating the planet, but they still make a disconnect between creating the planet and nature and actually giving God reverence. Can you talk about the reverence part versus the nature part?
So I remember when I first moved to the farm in California, my farm in California, from being in the city from the time I was 17. And I remember looking up I just remember and being in full awe of all that was expressing and looking around and looking at the stars and the sky and the trees around me and the crickets, and like just in full awe of the magnitude in which God's design works together, and on a level that we can't even understand, that there's these ecosystems and how everything, and like people who just think like we just like it was a black hole and we just like poofed out of nowhere, like the level of intelligence that has to have all this microbiology feeding the plants, and the plants are feeding the animals and the insects, and then these animals are eating the insects, and these bigger animals are eating these animals, and these animals are eating the grass, and the grass is eating the microbiology, and the grass is bringing down the carbon from the atmosphere and feeding it to the turning it into sugars and carbohydrates and feeding it to the microbiology, which is feeding the trees. I mean, the level of intelligence, like to not have reverence for how perfect the Lord created everything to be, you have to be asleep. And they want us asleep. And in the city, it's easy to be asleep because you're in a room with 4 white walls, and I got a bed cover from Target, and I bought some bananas at Whole Foods, and like life is good. Netflix is on. And you don't necessarily have to actually have reverence for how interconnected every bit of it is and how perfect all of it is. And everything, I was a straight, just like liberal. If you looked up in the diary of the Wikipedia, like married to an undocumented man, vegan chef, environmentalist, driving a hybrid, and
you were like the Thanos. You were like the Thanos of liberals. You had like all the liberal infinity stones. Like that's all of them.
And literally, all of that was stripped away, and all of that was really stripped away by God. But in my interaction with farming and nature was how he stripped that all away from me. And I think that my book is important because I don't think anybody's actually written this book before. Often books are written and there's 5, 10 other versions of that book out there, and you have a nuanced version of it. Has anybody ever said like nature is conservative and I was a liberal, and nature taught me the ways of God are perfect? And that's what I'm saying. I am saying I waited till I was 36, almost 37 to have my first child. I almost missed my opportunity. Like, thank the Lord, like the blessing that I have 4 children and I didn't start until 36 years old. Like the level of blessing that is unbelievable. And the amount of blessings that I have, that I could have the experience to shift my mind around abortion and it's not just even things. Some things are totally liberal ideas. I mean, are conservative ideas that I push up against, like breastfeeding for only 3 months or not breastfeeding at all. There is literally no other creature in God's design that thinks that they can make a formula that would be better than God's formula for their own child. And there is no other mammal on the planet that thinks 3 months, even mammals that live 20% of the time that we live. No other mammal only breastfeeds their child for 3 months, not even pigs or animals that only are living a very short amount of time. The average time that a kid in the United States is exclusively breastfed is 3 months. And that is
hold on, Mollie.
percent. It's not even a high percentage are done.
Hold on, I had 2 questions. The first question is, so having children later, you didn't have any complications, right?
No, God's design is perfect.
Okay, so
I'm 47 and I still hope to have one more. I don't know if I can, but I mean, I'm still breastfeeding. I have a 2-year-old. I had a baby when I was 45 and I'm 47. And so,
so that's what I would ask.
I want to have another one. I have a regular period. It just came back because I was breastfeeding. So like 18, when she was like 18 months or 20 months, it came back and it's totally regular, 28 days, like clockwork. So I'm still hoping that I can have one more.
Okay. So do you think that we know we give honor to God that you didn't have any complications, But do you believe that your mindset of not thinking that you would, okay, how can I say this? Do you believe that your mindset of I can have children, I want to have, like you weren't even thinking about complications and should I not do this? And, or, you know what I mean? Like, how was your attitude towards having the child at 36 years old?
I'm kind of bullish on anything I want to do. I'm not one of those people, how there's some people, and they think about everything. Like there's probably
Yeah.
people that have been thinking about writing a book for like 10 years and haven't written a book. And someone just offered me the opportunity a couple months ago, and now it's coming out on Amazon and everywhere else in a couple of weeks. Like, so I'm like bullish. So I got pregnant accidentally. We know the story. Some other people, I mean, I don't know if people know the story, but I've told this story. You know the story. And I had an experience that I felt like was a conversation with God earlier in life about my abortions. And I had been told mother, father, child is the other Holy Trinity, and you must honor that. And I decided I was going to marry this person, even though it was not what I wanted or whatever. And so I felt like it was divine. It was meant. And so I didn't have any fear or anything about it at all. And I ended up having to have that first kid in the hospital because there was some complications, but not because of my age. Because when I was 16, I got in a car accident. I broke my coccyx bone. And so it blocked.
Yeah.
He couldn't get out because of
Yeah.
that, which I detail in the book. And even that, I believe, was God's perfection, because I was so righteous. Like, women can just squat down and have a baby. They've been doing it for thousands of years. We're such wimpy little biatches here needing epidurals and blah, 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 blah. And I mean, I still kind of feel that way. But I also feel like in the case of I was going to die and my son was going to die, I'm so grateful there was an epidural. And I'm not going to say that I don't think there's impact on my son mentally and on my body and everything because of that, but they had to reach inside me and break my bone and suck him out with a vacuum because he was stuck because of the bone. So I'm grateful for those medical interventions when necessary, but ultimately they're not necessary very often. And we love to medicalize birth. And I talk about C-sections, and we are at a 40% C-section rate in this country. And we're creating children that cannot push through hard circumstances because they've never had to. Their very first entrance into life, they were cut open and taken out. God's design is that you must push your way out of your mother. And even if my son got help with some clamps and whatever, he was pushing for 4 days. And then we broke the bone and he was pushing and we got him out with some help. But that is different than we just cut you out and pull you out into the world. There's a design that you are meant to walk through that birth canal. You are meant to get the microbiology of the vagina, the anus, all over your face, nose, and mouth to colonize your body with God's perfect design. There is bacteria that is never in your vagina. It is only ever in your colon. It migrates to your vagina just before you give birth, and so that it can colonize into your child. Like, God's design is so perfect. When you breastfeed your child, there's communication between your nipple and your immune system and the child's immune system. And it is reading what the child needs and then modifying the milk to be what the child needs. Yet we think that Nestle can somehow, Infamil is going to give us something better. Like, what level of arrogance is that? Or apathy or laziness? I don't know. And women get very mad. Fed is best. Of course, fed is best. If you cut off your breast when you were a teenager because you were confused and you have to formula feed your baby, I'm really sorry that happened. If you adopted a child and you need to formula feed your baby, I understand, that makes sense. But literally, 95% of women can breastfeed and should breastfeed. And a big reason why women think they don't have enough milk supply is because we don't eat and drink enough. We're trying to lose weight right away. Like, we want to get our bodies back. If you are eating enough calories and drinking enough water, you will make enough milk.
Hold on, go back. So you mentioned about the C-section, the child not passing. the child not okay. This is okay. So when they cut the child out, I feel like it's almost like a detour from God's design. Like we're going to not let the child come out God's way. We're going to do it our way, and it's like more brutal. I remember I saw a girl, a friend of mine went to Thailand, showed me a girl. She had a C-section, looked like somebody she got in a fight with a samurai. Like it was just like it looked crazy. I was like, what in the? But I don't know. Anyway,
it's major surgery, and you get inoculated with the worst kind of industrial microbiome that can't be killed by the chemicals they use in an operating room. What are the germs that will inoculate you in that operating room? It's an industrial microbiome that is not what's meant to be foundationally important.
Okay. And then the second thing, you said two things. First thing you said, so women believe they can breastfeed the child for just 3 months and that's it?
Google it right now. What is the average time that a child is exclusively breastfed in the United States? What percentage? It's like 3 months to 6 months, and it's like 50%. I've been breastfeeding for 10 years and 7 months consecutively because I've breastfed every one of my children for 2.5 years at least.
Yeah, it says on average about 6 months.
And what percentage of Americans do that?
Oh, percentage of Americans? Well, that's a good question. Percentage of Americans that
it says 6 months exclusively or just 6 months breastfeeding?
It says 6 months breastfeeding, so I imagine it's not exclusive.
I think it's 3 months exclusively is the average in America, and I think that it's less than 60%.
Oh no. It says 6 months breastfeeding, 12 months to 18 months with formula. Infants.
I have the statistics in my book from the internet, but I think it's that like 3 months exclusively breastfeeding is the average in America, and then 6 months that they're weaning them all together and no more breast. And even like all these organizations that I think are trying to kill us, are like World Health Organization and whatever, they're at the Pediatrics Association of whatever, they all say 2.5 years plus. The global average is 2.5 to 3 years. Why in America do we think we can skip that step?
Yeah, these numbers are getting kind of low because it's saying that 83% of infants start out breastfeeding, but then by the 6th month, it's 25%. And then
by the 6th month, only 25% are still being breastfeeding at will. And it's like at 3 months, it's like 40-something%. Like it's crazy. And so my question is, why as Americans do we think we can skip this very important, like we're doing all this MAHA, make America healthy again. Well, like we're not even foundationally trying to set our children up for success. I remember me and you have talked about this before, and you were like, what could I have done if my mother breastfed me for right? Did we talk about this? You were saying,
yeah, I remember. I don't remember. I didn't get breastfed. I don't think that's why I'm kind of messed up.
No, you were saying, and you were like, I imagine how smart I would have been. You were joking.
Yeah, I mean, my bone density, my muscles, my IQ, everything is lower. I was supposed to be a juggernaut. I had to fight my whole life. I was like a run. So yeah, listen. I know the breastfeeding, the non-breastfeeding, made me a mere mortal. If I had got my mom's breast milk, I would have been a X-Man. So yeah.
Did you ever ask your mom? Because you talked about, you said you were going to ask her why.
I mean, she's deceased, but I don't know why. I just remember my mom. Yeah, I don't know why she didn't breastfeed me.
Did she breastfeed? Do you have siblings?
My dad, but it was crazy. Like my dad, they got breastfed. I know they did. My sisters, my dad's daughter and other son, they got breastfed. I was the one that didn't get breastfed. My mom was a little more modern. She was a lot more, I don't want to say feminist, but I want to maybe, nah. Yeah, my mom was kind of, yeah.
Well, so I mean, so this is just an example. There's 19 chapters, and I address all these modern ideas that we think are totally normal. And breastfeeding, C-sections, abortion, vasectomies, like all these things, transgenderism, immigration, and I address them all through the lens of how does God's design show up in nature? And how does that reflect the current ideas that we're meant to believe is true? And ultimately, what I find is that almost everything in the liberal construct of what we think is real in the United States right now is not true. If you use that standard as nature as the standard.
So, okay, so I guess your book is kind of revolutionary. So, can you talk about how, I guess, okay.
I talk about race too. I talk about race, which is
okay.
risky. I talk about equity, diversity, inclusion as well, which is risky as a white woman in America. A white woman that should be just like straight Karen out, should just be like bowing to the lords of virtue signaling, so everybody can know how much I'm not a racist. And what is it called? Being an anti-racist.
Yeah,
I am an anti-racist. I'm anti-racism. But racism is made up. Race is made up. Like, look at nature. There is a black sheep in my field right now with a white baby, and literally nobody had a meeting to ask about how the herd was going to view the baby. Was the baby going to be seen as white, or was the baby going to be seen as black because the mother is black? Like, there was none of that existed in the herd of sheep. Nobody even cares what color the sheep was. There's goats that, I got a brown goat that just had a white baby with little brown speckles. No, nobody's phased at all. Only we have made up this construct that race is real. It's not. And I'll prove it to you right now. If you take my husband and his ideology, he grew up Catholic and indigenous culture combination, kind of, in a rural town in southern Mexico and in Oaxaca. And he's Mexican American. He's an American citizen. And you take my friend Junior. Junior grew up in South LA and East LA. He was born in LA. They have the same color skin. They're both Mexican Americans. How much of Junior's beliefs and my husband's beliefs do you think are overlapping? Like, they are a race and that we can speak about them like a group.
They have two different experiences growing up. Like,
yeah, so they're not. So race isn't a thing because they look the same color and they're both Mexican Americans. I can do the same thing. I can take. I went to high school with a girl named Gugu. She was born in Africa. She came here when she was in high school. You think that you and Gugu have the same views about life?
Absolutely not.
Do you think that you and Gugu, you're both African Americans? You're both black.
I'm not, but yeah, I get it. Gugu is, I'm not.
But you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
My girlfriend Keely, who's always mad at me because I don't, me and you sometimes I send you her text messages that she sends me. Like, she'll tell me I don't include indigenous and POC people in my conversations. And I'm literally like, what are you talking about? Like, every day I have indigenous and POC people in my conversation. She'll go, well, not all skin folk are kin folk. And I'm like, yeah, you're making my point. You're literally making my point, because you're saying, what you're actually saying is, I don't speak to Black people and Mexican people and Native people that agree with you, that my circle agrees with me, which is not even true. Also, like, I have lots of people in my circle that don't agree with me at all. And so, but that's literally the expression, not all skin folk are kin folk, makes my point that there is no race. We think that gender is a construct made up and race is real. And I'm going to tell you, you take that idea to nature, take that to the savannah, take that to the farm, and I'm going to tell you that every single day, the farm and nature and the savannah and the woods are going to tell you gender is real. And the color that you are having something to do with what you believe is a construct that we have made up. It is not real. It is by design to keep us divided 100%.
Somebody asked on Instagram, do you believe that we have genetic differences?
Sure. I get sunburned. I bet Blanche doesn't. My ancestors are from Ireland.
I've gotten sunburn before, you know.
I mean, you need to take in more sun to get the same amount of vitamin D as I am. Right. And then I do. My eye color is lighter. I get sunstroke from too much sun. I throw up. My husband is like, that is some white people shit. I had never got sunstroke before, right? He grew up in the tropics. So are there genetic differences? Yes. But do those genetic differences have anything to do with how we behave, how we think, what we believe in the world?
No.
And we conflate behavior, cultural norms with race. And that's not good because there's bad behavior that people do not want associated with a whole group of people. And there's good behavior that could be associated with a whole group of people that has nothing to do with certain people. Like that is not culture, societal norms. Different areas have different ways of doing things. That's real. And my friend Ricardo the other day was joking. I put this in the book and he makes my point too, because he's on and on about race. And then I said something like, well, but you don't agree with, like, you don't think that Candace Owens is a real Black person. And what you really mean is people that have the same color skin as you and believe the same as you. Those are Black people. And everybody else is some other category.
Ideologically Black.
Ideology Black. And he said, well, you're more Black than Candace Owens. And I said, well, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. And apparently he's seen some video where people asked Candace Owens a bunch of questions that Black people would know the answer to. And so he asked me these questions. And did I know the answers? Yes, I know the answers. You want to know why? Because I grew up in the Black community. I only dated brothers till I was 27 years old. Yeah. Like, I can also do cornrows and make fried chicken and can do lots of get hot iron my girlfriend's hair. I can take out a weave. I can do lots of things. Does not make me Black. It just means that culturally, I have a lot of exposure to a very specific culture of Black people in Los Angeles. But that doesn't represent Black people on the whole country, just like the hippie commune lifestyle that I grew up in represents a fraction of white people in the United States.
But Mollie, in all honesty, to be Black is the things that you described, though. So if you ask Black people, what does it mean to be Black? They're going to list external things that are cultural. They're not going to say my genetics is this, my blood type is this. They're not going to say that. They're going to say things like what you just said. You know, I grew up this way around Black people. We did like it. But
you understand that I wore cornrows and curved fingernails and Manolo Blahnik Timberland and baby fat sweatsuits, and I worked in the hip hop industry, and I owned a recording studio, and I was on HBO Def Poetry, and I opened up for the Roots. Like,
yes,
that does not make me Black.
But Mollie, if you were a Black woman and had done all of those things, that would make you super Black, is my point.
But you know that the real poem that I was supposed to do for HBO Def Poetry they edited it out, but it was literally about how I dated brothers and how literally they were never going to marry me because they all were too righteous to spend their life with. A white chick was at the end of, and basically like I dated black men who claimed to love me, and then we'd be around their family like, oh, this is my homegirl. Like we literally lived together. Like I'm confused right now, right? And so, and every one of them ended up marrying a black woman. Like every one of these guys. Well, one of them's not married and still wears a mask and lives in New York City. So I mean, I don't know. But most of them married, all married black women. And so I did a poem basically about how this, and it started out like she rolled her eyes back in her head. She looked at her friend and said, just another white chick chasing that Nubian dick. And then it goes on to have my experience of like, how did I end up starting to date black guys? And so this was the poem that was like blowing up, and there was no internet back then, but like, it was just like getting standing ovations, blah, blah, blah. And that's what I got called. And then they basically chickened out. And I got a standing ovation. Russell Simmons was standing up. Everybody was standing up, but they didn't put it on. It was too controversial.
Controversial, yeah.
And so the one that came out was, called That Psychotic.
Mollie, so can I ask you a question just real quick? So so my question is, what is your ethnicity, and do you hate being white?
No. I don't hate anything about myself. I trust that God had the perfect design, and that perfect parents, that my soul has lessons to learn in this life. And my soul chose these circumstances. We are all in the school of life right now here, and our soul I believe there's a contract with God that we've come here under whatever circumstances that we are in, and that's why I think it's such a sad thing that's happening with the transgender thing, because this idea that we could be born in the wrong body is sad, because there's something perfect about that body that you were born into, and there's something that you're meant to learn, that this is the divine plan for you. And that your soul, this is temporary. We're here, and this life is temporary. And we've all have a contract. Our souls want this life to learn something. And so to abandon the perfection of our contract with God seems heartbreaking.
Okay.
But, no, I don't hate being white. I don't hate being a woman either. I don't hate, I mean, occasionally, like when I am trying to raise money for a business or something, and I watch men who have like scammed their way through the world, like raising money like nothing, I'm like, oh, it's a little annoying. But I don't have it like, I'm so grateful for everything, the bad, the good, everything in my life, because I can see how it's all led me to right here and where I am. And right here, I'm a mom of 4, and I have a husband, and I'm on this farm. And is life hard financially? Yes. But like, how extraordinary. I got to sit on my porch this morning and watch the sunrise and listen to crickets and birds and watch the kittens play in the front yard and drink my coffee and just wonder at how could I be so lucky?
You know what, Mollie, you mentioned, and this is what I noticed too. I noticed that the way black people are fixated with being black and skin tone and skin color is kind of the same way I don't want to call them the far right, but whatever it is where they just it's like they're the same type of person where they just make everything about being white or being black. Like it's everything is just put on that. And but you mentioned something earlier. You're talking about being in awe of nature. I remember being on your ranch, and I was walking back from those tents, and I just looked up, and I was like, what? It looked like it looked fake. It looked like somebody like cut the lights on and they had like the little it looked fake, like a bunch of fakes, like a movie set. I looked up like, what in the, I have never in my life seen stars that clear everywhere. I was like, what in the, I was about 15 minutes looking straight up in the air like this, just in awe. I never seen that before in my life. But I was in the middle of hill country in Texas, and I guess you had mentioned there wasn't any lights to, any city lights to drown out the light and all this stuff. But to look up and see that, I was amazed. I was like, my goodness, I could see literal stars. I maybe saw a few planets. I don't know. I was just amazed. But yeah, but you had mentioned that earlier about how when you're around nature, you really appreciate God more because you realize this is a masterful design.
It's perfect. And that's the part that we forget. We used to have to grow our own food. We used to have to work in that design. I mean, if you think about a corn, like a corn on the cob, right? One corn on the cob. You think you have, everybody, I assume, has seen a corn on the cob. So for every single kernel on that corn, the corn grows something called the silk, which is these little fine hairs. And those, each one of those has to take in a piece of pollen and then bring the male part of the plant down and place it, bring it down that silk line and place it into each one of those rows on that corn cob. And
each ear of corn individually,
each kernel of corn,
each kernel of corn individually
has to bring down. And so sometimes, like when they're on the edges and they're not getting enough wind and collecting enough pollen, they'll be oddly shaped with missing pieces and stuff. But yeah, each single one. Just think about that. Think about how the Fibonacci spiral is in everything. Like, that's God's handprint. Why is that in every, shows up in in our DNA, in the DNA of plants, in everything? Like it's all this beautiful, perfect design that is just so amazing. And this idea that we could improve upon it is silliness. We can't 3D print meat that's going to be better than a cow. We can't make milk from an almond that's going to be better than a cow or a goat. Like, we just can't. Like, that is, we shouldn't be pasteurizing milk because it's not meant to be pasteurized. But I started when we were talking about Genesis and I said God picked up the dirt. But I don't know if people know this. Your gut, the microbiology in your gut is 73% the same DNA as the microbiology in soil. 73% the same. So God picked up the dirt, made Adam, blew into his nose, gave him life, then took Adam's rib and made Eve. That would make sense that you're 73% the same as the soil, because that was the foundational material that the Lord used to create you.
So Debunked by Nature.
That's my book. It's out for pre-order now. Blanche is going to put a link somewhere so you can order it.
I got the link.
And we're doing, if anybody's interested to coming and seeing those beautiful stars or just learning, we're going to have the Debunked by Nature release party here in Texas, but it's going to happen during a bigger event called Food is Medicine. And Food is Medicine is this awesome retreat. I mean, we're having everybody from Misha Tate, who's a UFC fighter, champion UFC fighter, to Will Harris, who's like this Bluffton, Georgia regenerative farmer, to, you know, all these different, Courtney Swan and glyphosate girl, Kelly Ryerson. All these people are going to talk about how food is medicine, how we have the power to heal ourselves. And so I invite you to come. That is September 25th through the 28th. And on that Saturday night, we're going to have a book release party. And everybody that buys a 3-day ticket to this will get a free signed copy of the book. And so I invite you guys to come out or just check this out. It's on my website, sovereigntyranch.com, and you can check it out. And It's going to be an amazing workshop. We're going to butcher animals. We're going to make sourdough bread. We're going to make medicine, tinctures, all types of stuff.
Let me just get that website up real quick.
So another thing I came for in the book, which I'm sure people are not going to be expecting, but like literally we put our children in other rooms when they're babies. What in the world? Like where? Show me that somewhere in nature. Show me that somewhere else in God's design. Show me a bear that puts their cubs in another cave. It's like the most crazy thing. And we have even taught mothers that maybe they're going to get SIDS for sleeping next to their children. They're going to get SIDS, like sudden infant death. Sudden infant death is literally comes from vaccines. Like some 90% is like within 3 days of a well check. But neither here nor there. We don't want to get canceled on YouTube. But why we don't sleep next to our children anymore. And with the exception of like deer for the first 1 or 2 days before the baby can walk well, they sleep away from it so they don't draw smell to the baby. And then if they have to get up and run, they don't want the baby to not be able to run and the predator to eat the baby. That's just for a couple nights. And then that's it. There's no examples of mammals sleeping far away from their children.
So let me put this.
That was all introduced so women could work in factories and that you could sleep training. I talk about sleep training, like this letting your baby cry to sleep. It's some bullshit. That was all part of a design.
That was done to me. I know that.
But that was all part of a design so that mothers could get sleep and could work in factories. Nothing to do with what's right. I mean, a baby cries because they need something. When they get older, they learn how to manipulate, yes. But when they're an infant, they're crying because they need something. And it might just be that they need to be next to your heartbeat because they just lived 9 months with you and in you, and now they're separate from you, and that's hard.
They've done a number on us. My goodness. Oh, my goodness.
But so that's the whole idea of the book is like, how can we get back to God's design? And what can we do to do that?
So you mentioned that you talk about, you have some controversial chapters. What would you say the controversial chapters were? I know you mentioned about race and something else.
I say that race doesn't exist. I talk about equity. Equities doesn't exist in nature. There's no like this little plant's not doing as good as this other plant. Like that's just like not a thing. So we're gonna like prop this plant. It's not a thing. The strong survive, the weak die. That is how the God's design is for a reason, so that the fortitude and the strength moves forward. And diversity exists everywhere, but it's not diversity of color or diversity of sexual preference. It's diversity of function. And what we have is fake diversity everywhere because we have a bunch of people that look different and have sex with different people that all believe and think and act the exact same way.
Right.
And so what we literally need is the diversity of function in the world. And I talk about like, even like the wage gap, like, or why should everybody be paid the same amount? Everybody doesn't have the same contribution. In nature, the lionesses have one job, the lion has one job. There's different people in the group have different amounts of the meat and they all have to serve in whatever way. But there's not like, oh, we're going to divide it up and everybody's going to get exactly the same amount because that's what's fair. It's just, that's not a real thing. Even my cows that take on other baby cows, like because their mom died, they let their calf nurse first. And then this orphan calf can nurse second.
I like that.
Diversity of function exists in nature. but this diversity for the sake of diversity, that's not really diversity. Like, it's not, you think that nature cares if you just grow like a bunch of cauliflower in a field, but you put purple cauliflower and orange cauliflower, white cauliflower, and green cauliflower. Do you think that that is diversity? It's literally not. It's the same, same thing is growing. If a pest comes in that kills cauliflower, it's going to kill all of them. That is not diversity. That is, I don't know, different colors of the same thing. Like, it's not.
They call it multiculturalism. That's what,
multiculturalism. Yeah. So I talk about that, which is not popular. I talk about socialism, that I talk about sending aid to other countries. Like, animals don't send aid to even like the cows down the street. It's literally not a thing.
Well, you know what?
Looking out for their group, and there's tribal, there's a pack, and then people, I even talk about immigration, and people are like, how are you going to talk about that? You believe in a closed border and migratory birds and butterflies or whatever. Again, I actually believe we need labor in this country. Me and you disagree on this, but I dare you to run a farm or a restaurant and have 100%.
No. Hold on. Time out. No.
But what I'm saying is we need the labor in this country. And so we do, but we need a closed border. We need the border to be closed. And people are going to say, well, that's not nature. Well, nature, there's only migration with function. And so the function of the migration is to go eat over there. That's the same as the function here. We just need a system for that function that works. And there's definitely territories that lions and cats, baboons, and chimpanzees will fight to the death for their territory.
Yeah.
So this idea that nature is just like free flowing, everybody's flowing, blah, 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 blah. Even hummingbird, even parrots and swallows, like, you have to learn the dialect of these other birds. Like in San Francisco, they studied these birds, and some live on one side in Oakland and some live in the other side in San Francisco, and they have a different dialect. And the birds that fly from Oakland to San Francisco, they cannot pair up and mate with the other birds. I should have put this in the book. I didn't put this in the book, but that would have been a good idea. But they found out that until they learned the dialect of the area of the birds, they couldn't mate up with any of the birds. They were ostracized until they learned the dialect. So I just want to say there's examples in nature to learn the language of the country that you live in and to defend your borders. These exist in nature as well. So I basically come to the conclusion that nature is conservative, and basically the idea of the book is that my entire liberal construct was debunked by nature and therefore debunked by God.
And so I just want to go back to what you said about the immigration thing. So what I said was that during the Biden administration, that was something different than normal immigration.
Oh, it was ridiculous.
Yeah, that was something. People come from all around the world. That was a whole plan and plot to the that's not to me. That was an invasion more than immigration.
I'll take it even a step further, and surely people will call me racist for it, but we were told that we were spreading American values in Muslim countries all around the world for the last 20 years. That's what we were doing, right? We were liberating women. We were protecting gay people, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to tell you that literally we've imported those values to America much more than we've exported those values out of America.
Yes, I'll go with that. Yeah, there's more of an import. Yeah, I'll go with that than an outport. Yes.
And I don't know how in Texas, it's a huge Muslim community that did not exist. When I was a child and you went to Costco, all the meat was not halal. Now, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying that.
What city is this?
In San Antonio, in Houston, in Dallas, when you go to Costco, there's like halal goat with the bone in. I'm going to assert that is not for the native Texans that have lived here a long time. My husband eats goat with the bone in. He's from Mexico. their Pastor Joe from the church down the street, he eats goat with the bone in. He was born in Haiti. So so it's not even just Muslim. The halal part would be the Muslim part, but like just we are shifting the culture of America. And I think it's okay to say, I like America, the culture that it is. I like the freedom. I like the fire in our bellies to want to fight for what's right, for freedom of speech, for like, I want that. And other countries don't necessarily have. There's a cultural fight in us and a belief that we deserve freedom that doesn't necessarily exist in other cultures. And my concern is that that will be imported here, and that we are importing that, a more submissive populace.
Well, I say this all the time, that Black people are already there. You know, this because Black people are still fighting for the right to vote. You know, so it's like, I mean, they can vote, they're just still fighting for it. It's my point. My point is,
wait, why are they fighting for it?
Because they're being told they can't, even though they go and vote, they're being told they can't vote. So, you know, like Stacey Abrams, she was running, she said, vote for me so I can give you the right to vote. It was insane. But anyway, but yes, those cultural, and I tell people this all the time, actually believing in freedom is very much an American thing. It's to like be willing to die for freedom. Like that is very much American. Folks coming from other countries, they're already demoralized. Like they're not coming here with the spirit of patriotism and no, they're coming here for a better life, but they're already demoralized by where they come from. And so you're right. American culture is eroding. And if America's not America, then I don't know what we're going to do. It's going to be very bad.
We're the last, like someone just told me this recently, that they were like, you're the America, you guys keep fighting, keep speaking up because you're the last candle in a dark room and you're the last light that's still shining. And that's how a lot of people around the world feel. I mean, did you see, I posted this thing today on my stories. CBS, I think, was doing a story about in Germany, how you could go to jail for saying things on the internet that are not nice about politicians and whatever. Like, what in the world? But I felt like they weren't I felt like they were like joking with the police officers. And like, I felt like it was a friendly story towards something that's crazy. You can go to jail for reposting something that's not nice.
Well, they started that during COVID, where people were posting stuff online, and the other countries were coming to their house and taking them to jail. So somebody mentioned that in the chat, Jarrell. But he says the invasion was because of COVID. It gave the workers power over wages, and system panic and flooded everything to kill those wage increases. But yeah, they tried to pass.
I didn't feel like what I was upset about is I didn't feel like it was obvious. Like I didn't feel like it was obvious that CBS was saying this is, and I only saw a clip, but it felt like she was joking. Like, and so do you think this makes sense? Yes, they were racist. They said something that was wrong. You know, I didn't feel like they were condemning the German culture for doing that.
What you mean?
I feel like we're trying to normalize it here. I feel like we're trying to get to a world. And so this is mainstream media telling the story, talking to these 3 police officers, telling their side of the story about why Germany arrests people for saying not nice things.
And we can agree that think about it, half of the country and most immigrants coming here would agree that if someone's offending you, you should be able to lock them up. At least half of the country believes that. Half of the country believes that. If you offend me in your speech, you should be able to get locked up. I don't know, Mollie. So even with your book, imagine your book, you know, somebody reading and say, oh my goodness, she said what? Like, and imagine your book being considered, what's the word? Not contraband, but like I don't know.
Something that's illegal. Like I think
something illegal, but like, you know, something that's like, you know, this is we got treasonous, or I don't know.
but we're not that far off from that. And it's crazy. Both sides are doing it. It's just, it's literally, I'm so highly disappointed in Trump because everything that we knew the Democrats were doing, the digital IDs, the mass surveillance, the CBDCs, we knew that control grid was coming. And so we chose him. We chose because we believed in that he was going to have some freedom, something, at least pretend, at least. And I literally said to my father, like, I just think Trump will slow it down, but the powers that be are going to get what they want. I don't know that it would have been slower with Kamala. I mean, he's putting in speech. He's literally making this precedent for no more freedom of speech with all these laws about not being able to speak poorly of Israel. In what in the world that we can't say, I don't agree with this government of a foreign nation? And then he tried to say you're not going to get your FEMA money if you don't support a foreign nation. And then everybody freaked out and they erased it. And you didn't see this just happen in like the last 54 hours or something. You should look it up. But they said that if you're boycotting, if you're a municipality or you're a business and you're actively boycotting any Israeli companies, Israeli ideas, Israeli this, Israeli that, you will not get money from FEMA. And then people went like crazy. It was like, what do you mean? Like, FEMA is our tax dollars. There's an emergency. You're going to withhold it because we don't like what a foreign nation is doing. And then they tried to repost the section from the Homeland Security where it didn't say it anymore. And people were like, oh, this was yesterday. Here's a screenshot from yesterday. Like, why are you guys trying to gaslight us? But anyway, he putting in speech laws that you can't diminish Israel. Well, that's no different than you can't say a racist thing about a politician, or you can't talk about Macron's wife's dick. Like, these are all the same thing. And the idea in America, I can say people every day say Trump is Hitler, Trump is this, Trump is a rapist, Trump is whatever, and you're allowed to do that. But you say, I don't think we should be killing children waiting in line to get food. You're not gonna get your FEMA money. Like, it's or you're gonna go to jail for hate speech, whatever, or get expelled from college or lose your green card. I mean, they deported a kid with a green card that was legally here and has a baby here for speaking up for Palestine. That's not freedom of speech. So Trump is getting the same things done that the Democrats were going to go. He said, we're not going to do a CBDC. And then like literally 2 seconds later said, we're going to do a digital dollar. You think
and you know what?
Like, you think I don't, that is the same thing. And then you ask AI, like, what's the difference between a CBDC and a digital dollar? Well, one would be issued by the Fed and one would be issued at the bank level.
Right.
Okay, great. Yeah. So the surveillance state, he got into the big, beautiful bill that nobody can stop any AI surveillance or any other AI advancements in any state, at any state level.
I thought that got removed though.
I think so. But there's a bunch of other surveillance stuff. They're celebrating that they got the aviation out of the drone thing. And so now they're going to be able to like be at the forefront of the drones and your coffee's going to come from a drone and blah, 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 blah. So my point is, he's moving as quickly as the Democrats would have been. They're uploading all of our medical data. They're collating all of our medical data into a medical ID, and it's going to be optional. Optional. It's always optional to start. So I think that it's very disappointing to see that we're going in this direction. But I don't like to say the powers that be. I like to say the powers that were. And I think that there's a massive awakening happening. And I think that
Yeah.
I think that the Epstein thing was just like a very big misstep on the part of Trump. I just don't think he realized how important it was to the MAGA base. And so much of the MAGA base was down the QAnon tunnel. And it was such a big deal for QAnon. And it was such a big deal. And, you know, people are saying like Trump ran on this and he said, but the truth is, you go back, he didn't run on it. He actually was pretty quiet on the Epstein thing most all the time. And when he was directly asked of it, he says, I might do that, but I'm more likely to do this. I'm more likely to do this. I'm more likely. He was actually pretty quiet on it. Other people, Kash Patel, Bongino, his son. But honestly, Trump actually never said he was going to do that. But I think the way he did it, the not doing it, is a misstep. And I don't know. It's crazy.
Well, let me say this. I talk about free speech a lot.
Yeah.
And I talk about people having the right to have an opinion, even if it's wrong. And I think that now we're getting into the realm where your opinion has to be right. And I'm like, since when in history has somebody's opinion ever been right? Never. So even if a person disagrees with everything about Israel, they should be allowed to disagree. Just like folks that disagree with things that go on in China, things that go on in America. It's like it's no, the Israeli government is no different than any other government in the world. Every government is up for critique because they're ruling over people. They're all going to do something wrong and do something right. That's the nature of the beast. But the issue I have is trying to put in laws to determine when somebody is being this and when somebody is being that. Like, who's the decider of it? Who are you to say that my opinion is wrong? Guess what? It could be wrong. I could be walking around saying 2 + 2 is 5 all day. But guess what? That is my right to say. I could have a school.
You're right.
I could have a school that's called the Academy of 2 + 2 is 5 equals 5. But guess what? You don't have to come to my academy. You can literally drive by, not enroll your kids. But my point is that when we get down this road of implementing laws of what's considered this and what's considered that, it's going to be very difficult because once it's implemented, there's no going back. There's no going back to once they pass a law, there's no going back. It's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem. There's going to be an issue where it's going to be climate change coming up. Everybody's going to say, man, climate change ain't real. Oh, you're going to jail. Oh, you're losing your job. Climate change is real. Think about the system.
You see that Canada's not letting people go in the woods?
Again,
on your own property.
Again, this is a very slippery slope of saying what people can't say and what people can say. If a person is not breaking the law in their speech, meaning they are not threatening, they are not wishing harm, they are not doing something that's against the law, they should be able to say it. I don't care what it is. Even with the book banning, right? Now, they talk about the book banning. Now, should these books be around children? No. But should the books be banned off the market? No, it should not be. So, but I think with the book banning was basically with children. It wasn't with just on the market.
No, I know. They love to say Republicans want to ban books. Like, nobody's trying to ban any books. They just don't want sexual books around their children, which is totally normal. But what's crazy is, as someone who has in the past had stalkers and do you know how hard it is to get the police to now people are getting arrested for what they say online and the wrong opinion and praying outside of an abortion clinic, all the stuff that we've seen in the last whatever year. I literally had a dude spray paint on my house. Fuck you. Hit my car with a baseball bat, hit my mailbox. I used to grow weed. He spray painted on one of my grow houses. This bitch is growing weed.
Snitch.
But anyways, he texted me. He put dead birds in my car. I didn't tell the cops about this bitch is growing weed. I just painted that over real quick. But but I told him about everything else. And literally they did not, until he literally did something that was dangerous to himself, like he cut himself. They didn't 5150 him. They didn't do anything, even though he was like saying he wanted to kill me, smashing things, da 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 da. But now, like, you don't agree and you want to have a different opinion than me and you should be deported. That doesn't make any sense.
I mean, listen, I've been talking about this for a few years now, about this freedom of speech, and the goal is for us not to be able to tell the truth. So, I mean, and again, like your book, just think about the Bible. Think about what the things in the Bible that could be deemed and seen as hateful, racist, homophobic, anti. Think about the Bible touches all of the antis and isms across the board, whether it be with homosexuals, Jews, whatever it is, it's all in the Bible where you can make a case and say that this book goes against people's rights. This book is infringing upon people's rights. This book is casting negative dispersions upon this group of people. Like, you can literally make the claim. So what are we going to do? Are we going to, because to me, once you start passing laws, the goal is eventually get to that Bible. And then once they snatch that up, it's going to be chaos.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, all behavior leads to more virtue or less virtue. And you can look at like everything that the powers that were, I don't want to call them the powers that be, the powers that were are trying to do, all less lead to less virtue. Aborting your child, vasectomy, birth control, it all leads to less virtue.
Eating processed foods.
Processed foods, gluttony, needing, just like living for money, money slave system. We're all just like in the money slave system doing stuff we hate for a paycheck, but we have to do it because we have to feed our family. Like, it's just, and the messed up thing is, Blanche, if we just, there's so many more of us than there is of them. And the reason they want us fighting over whether I'm blacker than Candace Owens or whatever the dumb things are, it's because if we just stop and we said enough is enough. No, we're not. No more. We're going to move to Mollie's farm. We're all going to pitch in. We're all going to do this. We're going to grow food. We're going to sell. Like, we're going to live in community. We're all going to buy some land together. But we don't even, as humans, we don't even have the capacity to live in community anymore. And this is the way we lived all of our lives, all across the globe. And do you know, we are so addicted to having it my way that we're single, we're alone, we live without other people because we don't have the capacity to be forgiving, to disagree, to make requests, to apologize, to acknowledge each other. Like, we don't have the superpowers of community, and so we can't do it. But if we just all stopped, we're not going to pay income tax. It's totally illegal. There's literally no code for it anywhere. It's illegal. We're not going to pay it anymore. If everybody just said that,
they have to say, yeah, they have to agree. Yeah, they have to
agree. But if you just get 5 crazy people that are like, we're Moorish, we're not going to pay taxes anymore. We're, the citizens of the state of California, sovereign citizens, we're not going to be taxed. And then they're just like these fringe people. But like, those people are right about a lot of things. And they might be wrong about some things. And that's okay. We can be right and can be wrong. That, if we just all stopped, if we just said, no, I'm not going to eat refined sugar. I'm not going to eat anything with Palo, sorbate, whatever, nothing. Like, I literally go into a grocery store. I do not buy 95% of the stuff in the grocery store. I can tell you, like, literally, like, what I go and buy at the grocery store is in the section that has fruits and vegetables. Sometimes I get seafood because we grow all of our own meat, but sometimes I get seafood. And then I sometimes buy yogurt for starter to make more yogurt here on the farm. And occasionally I'll get something for the kids, like a snack or a cereal that's organic, and I deem that as a failure. But like, literally, I don't eat the whole center of the grocery store. I don't eat it. I don't eat it.
Yeah, somebody said that you're not. I saw this the other day where you're not supposed to eat what's on the inside of the grocery store. It's on the outside of the grocery store. You go in.
Yeah,
somebody actually said that.
Dairy, eggs,
Yeah, just because the inside.
Yeah,
because the middle of the all processed.
Don't go in the middle of the grocery store. And if you're going in the middle of the grocery store, just be like to get baking soda or like some kind of thing, but just get a single ingredient. If it's anything in the center of the grocery store, it should only have less than 5 ingredients, and you should be able to pronounce them all, and you should be able to imagine them all growing. You should know what they look like in your mind's eye. Like, I know. And it shouldn't, if it says like pea protein isolate or whatever, for no. It says peas. Okay, it's okay. Like, I was just looking at, my daughter eats Raisin Bran sometimes, and I know organic Raisin Bran, but I know cereal's bad. But sometimes I'm rushing in the morning and milk from the cow, and I think it evens out, right? But I was just looking, and they recently changed the ingredients to the organic Raisin Bran that we get, and now it has seed oils in it. And I was like, why does it need sunflower oil? They added
seed oil to it.
Yeah. And I'm like, why did they do that? So now I don't let her get that one. There's this blueberry one that we get at Costco. It's organic, doesn't have any seed oils in it. But I'm like, why? Why did they do that?
I feel like, Molly, you know what I feel like? I feel like it's on purpose.
Yes.
Like, why? Like, tell me, what is the seed oil doing to the product? Like, what is it making? Like, what is it making it do? Is it making it last longer? Is it making
it's making, like, there's a flour wrap, an almond flour wrap that's gluten-free. And the company is like, has chips with no seed oils and different stuff. And they have different products. I forgot the name of the company right now. They got bought by like Pepsi Cola or something. And so their ingredients used to just be, I think, cassava flour and almond flour. It only had 2 ingredients and water. And now it has like this much ingredients. It's still okay. It's still better than other things. But I'm like, this product was crushing it. You bought the company because they were obviously profitable and crushing it. But then Pepsi Cola comes in and was like, well, how can we make it more profitable? And so now instead of just being cassava, it's like cassava flour, cassava starch, cassava, like all these refined versions, instead of just the way God made it ground up. Like, can we just do that? And I mean, I don't know if you know the story of white flour, but literally, so we used to just mill the flour daily for the bread. And there was a miller, and then you would go get your flour from the miller in your town. You would use that flour, and then you would go the next week and get more, because flour went bad once it was milled, because the oils in the husk would go rancid once it was broken open. And they figured out that they could filter out all of the husks, all of the shaft, and all of the wheat bran, where all the nutrients are, where the wheat bran oil is, where all the nutrients are. And then the flour doesn't go bad on the shelf. And then everybody started getting sick, like crazy sick. And they were like, well, you got to figure out, you can't. And the miller was like, you got to go back to the other way. And the miller's like, no, we're crushing. We're making so much money. We can mill 1 day a week and send it everywhere. And So they said, well, you got to add back the nutrients. So now, instead of whatever God put in wheat, which is all the way biblical, I don't think we're allergic to wheat. We're not meant to eat wheat. We're not meant to be gluten-free. We're just meant to eat it the way God intended. And so then they're putting folic acid and iron, the most gnarly kind of iron, not the iron that the wheat had. And so it doesn't go bad. And so people aren't dying because they're literally getting scurvy because they have no nutrients. But this is where we're at. Like, I'm at the point where I'm buying wheat berries and grinding my own flour. Like, I'm a crazy person, right? Well, am I a crazy person? Or my kids are eating a lot of carbohydrates. They might as well be getting nutrients out of these carbohydrates because that's crazy. We have to remember that God's design is actually perfect and we want everything to last on the shelf forever. Well, that's not the way it's meant to be. And if it lasts on the shelf forever, it needs to be fermented. It needs to be laid out in the sun. We need to cure it in some way that God intended, not with chemicals in a factory, in a plastic box, in a plastic bag, inside of a cardboard box with glue and toxins. Just think about like every box is sealing the plastic. What happens when you melt plastic? We've all smelt what it smells like to melt plastic. And I'll tell you what's interesting is when I'm pregnant, I can taste things so much more. And everything tastes like plastic to me that comes in a package. Granola, anything, it all tastes like plastic to me. You want to know why? Because they're melting those bags. They're sealing those bags. And there's plastic gases stuck inside the bag.
The heat is sealing the bag and burn. Yeah, so that's why you probably
chips, everything.
So even if the chips are organic, the bag is still sealed up in
plastic. And I'm not saying we should stop eating organic tortilla chips. Like that's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is it's everywhere. And so it's we've talked about this before, but like the average sperm count of a man by 2040, and you didn't believe me, you Googled it at the time, and then you found out that it was right, is going to be 0. At the current trajectory.
At the current trajectory, men will have no sperm count, shooting blanks.
By 2040.
Bunch of stars.
Yeah. 2040, my son is 5. I mean, he'll be in his childbearing years. And so I talk about this in my book where we screaming about reproductive rights. I want reproductive rights. You know what I want? The right for my son to be able to reproduce. What about those reproductive rights? Who's screaming about that? Where are the women screaming for their sons to be able to make love to their wives and have a baby the way that every generation before them did?
They don't care about that, Molly. You know that. You know, you mentioned something earlier. You know what I realized? The problem is, Molly, is that they've attached an ideology to everything. So it's not even, you can't even look at it from a righteous purview. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like, okay, like giving birth.
Yes.
They've made giving birth political. They've made it feminist. They've made it like they just attached giving birth, we've always done since the beginning of time. They've attached so many agendas and ideologies to it to where a person can't even look at giving birth like this is what God created us to do. Something so simple. Now, I don't want to have a child because it's my body. Does the man want you to have the child? Is it your choice? Like, it's just all of this stuff attached. And then even having a child, do you have a natural birth? Do you get the C-section? Do you break the coccyx bone? Do you do, like, it's a lot of things.
Well, I mean, I'm grateful that we were able to break the coccyx bone because I would have died. And people say, well, then in the olden days, you would have died. I said, yeah. Or in the olden days, I wouldn't have been driving a Ford Escort super fast. And my boyfriend would have dropped a cigarette onto the ground. And why I thought I could lean over and get the cigarette that he dropped because he was drunk at drinking a 40 while I'm driving and flip my car over and break my coccyx bone. Like, the reality is that also wouldn't have happened in the olden days. So I don't know what would have happened, but I'm grateful. Am I grateful that I'm still alive and I had 3 more children? Am I grateful for my son, even though I did have to have an epidural and all the stuff? Yes, I'm incredibly grateful. But I'm going to tell you one thing. My 4th child, hey, 6-7 podcast. He was here at Confluence just a month and a half ago, a couple months ago. Anyways, I was sitting in my bathtub and everybody else was sleeping. I'm laboring by myself. It's my 4th child. I don't need the fanfare of everybody. I'm actually just like praying that nobody wakes up and I don't have to deal with other children while I'm birthing. And I'm sitting in the bath and I'm laboring, no midwife, no husband, my husband's sleeping, my mother's sleeping. And I start weeping. And I wasn't weeping because it was so much pain. I was weeping because I was there in my home, in my bathtub, with God, bringing life forth, with my husband and my other children sleeping in my bed, my mother in the other room. And there is so many women that will never have the opportunity to do this without being drugged. And it's such a privilege to be there present with God as you bring life forth. And the catastrophe that we have made birth in this country, that women don't get to know their power, and the greatest power we have. And I don't care how many degrees you have or how much of a bad boss bitch you are. It's not the same, because I've done a lot and been a bad bitch boss, made millions and lost millions. But to sit there in your home, in your cave, in your safety with your family and God, and bring life forth sober, is such a privilege that our culture has robbed women of. And it is the greatest accomplishment. I'll tell you that if women were giving birth sober, the level of insecurity in women would go down a whole lot, because it is a massive feat where you commune with God and you bring life from the other side to this side. And there's no way that you don't feel more accomplished than you've ever felt in your whole life at that moment. And if people are interested, you could go back on my Instagram, and there's a more articulate way that I talk about this that morning. Just like hours after I had a baby, I get on Instagram and I talk about this. But it's so sad to me how many women are missing out on that experience.
How many women do you think would be willing to go through that experience? Like, what do you think would it take for a woman to even want to do that? Because I'd venture to say that most women probably don't even want to do it.
Well, you could Google, like, it's like 3%, right? What percentage of babies are born at home here in the United States? I'm sure it's like 3%, 2%. It's a small percentage. Because we don't do well under pressure. We are not a society that, like, I talk about this in my book too. Like, we think that being uncomfortable is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
What a disrespect to the thousands of people that had very hard and uncomfortable lives for you and I to be here. Your ancestors were fighters, were warriors, were hunters, were survivors through atrocity. And I don't care what color you are, your relatives fought like hell to survive, for you to exist. And we are like, I don't think that I'm going to continue the cycle of life because overpopulation and the planet. And I don't really want to be uncomfortable. I think I just want to schedule a C-section so I know what day the baby's coming. There's an interesting thing that when you cut a cow out of a mom, like if the mom dies and you cut the calf out, it doesn't know how to suck. Or sometimes if the cow is born feet first instead of face and front hooves first, the way it's supposed to, it doesn't know how to suck. And there's something called a reset you can do on a calf, where you tie something around 3 loops of rope with a piece of cloth around the center section of the cow for 20 minutes, as tight as you can do it without hurting the cow, but that it's very firm. And do that for 20 minutes. And then the cow is reset and they're able to suck. And I believe that there's something in the pushing through the birth canal that triggers the sucking. Like, I don't know, there's a reason for that. Like, why would that work? But except for that, somehow their birth didn't go the way they were supposed to. And so now they don't know what to do next, which is to suck. You could Google it. Watch a YouTube video, resetting a cow cow with no suckle.
That is amazing.
It's a real thing.
That is amazing. It's amazing that the calf doesn't know because it doesn't go through. And it's amazing that it can get reset to know how to, like, that's insane. It's crazy.
Yeah. But I don't know what percentage, but we're not
it's
raising.
It's 1%.
1%? You Googled it?
1% of women give birth at home.
What percent of women give birth without any medical interventions or drugs? Because some give birth in birth centers or at a hospital, but without drugs.
Oh.
But I still think it's not the same at a hospital.
Without the use of an epidural?
Yeah, without the use of an epidural or unmedicated. What percentage of births are completely unmedicated or some version of that in the United States? But even the idea, the story, when we say my body, my choice. I write about this for Epoch Times too. I wrote an article. I write twice a week for Epoch Times. If anybody reads Epoch Times, you can find my column in the opinion section twice a week. But I write about the concept, my body, my choice is not a real thing. My body belongs to the commons of my family. So, I talk about this a lot. Like in the morning, sometimes before I get my coffee, sometimes I'm changing diapers, breastfeeding a baby, making love with my husband, holding another child that's having a rough wake up in the morning. And then all of this is happening before I get my coffee. And when we tell our daughters, it's my body, my choice, we're not preparing them for motherhood. We're not preparing them to be a wife. We're not preparing them for birth. Our body is the conduit in which God uses to bring life forth onto this realm. And so what if it's my body, God's choice?
My body, God's choice. I like that. Okay, Molly, this says 40%.
So that's 40%. So whether they're willing to do it at home, there's many women that are doing it in the hospital.
Well, that's not home. That's just the home.
I don't think that's true though, because the C-section rate is like 40%.
Well, it's possible for them to just use I don't know. It just says 40% don't use any kind of medication
in the United States.
In the US.
I would want to see the foundational, because I think that some hospitals are even more than 50% are having C-sections. So I'm not believing that it's only another 10% are getting epidurals. Like, to me, that doesn't seem accurate.
No, 60% epidurals and medications.
Yeah, but I'm saying some hospitals are as high as 50% C-sections. So 40, it's like what's the C-section rate in the United States? That's why I think
C-sections are almost 40%.
So they're saying that there's just that there's just 20% of natural births with epidurals, and then they're saying, I just don't believe you.
Well, you know how when they do these studies, they're broken up into so many categories, like epidural, this right here. Like, it's just, they're going to skew the study because they don't want to promote it. So they're not going to say that,
Most women I know that go intend on having a natural birth in the hospital end up getting an epidural when they get there.
Yeah.
I would with the best intentions. And I don't know, because when I was transported to the hospital, it was like already emergency situation. And I had already been in labor for 2 days, and they didn't know what this pain was, what was causing this like jabbing and it was the bone. And so I was so resistant. I was screaming. I didn't want to go. I was made for this. I can do this. And my midwife was literally like, no, something is very wrong. you are made to do this. Your body is perfect and something is wrong and we need to go to the hospital. And so, but I never wanted to go to the hospital for any other births because I knew when you're at that moment and the pain seems so hard and there's something to take that pain away rather than just like settling into prayer and being with God. I think that we go for that. Like, how often have we had a headache or something? We're like, oh, let's just take Tylenol. Like, I want to deal with sitting in the discomfort.
Hold that thought. So I went to and read one of his articles real quick, and basically 10% is 10%.
That with no medication.
Yeah. So it's 60% having the baby with all the stuff, 30% C-section, and then 10% just natural.
Oh, so what that number they were telling you is natural birth, but it's still, or a vaginal birth, a natural birth is still with an epidural. Like it's different than unmedicated. So that's why.
So it's 10% of women.
So that is your answer. 10% of women and 1% is willing to do it without the hospital.
Yeah, and then 1% is no kind of man involvement at all. 1%. Yeah, 1%.
So I'm in the 1%.
You're in the 1%. Which is crazy because you think about it. I just think about Mollie, like you mentioned, there's something about doing something when it's just like all you have is God to do it. Where you're going through something and the only way you can get through this is just by the grace of God you're getting through it. I think it's something about, you mentioned us not being tough. There's something about going through something and the only thing you can rely on is all I got is a prayer. All I can do is pray. Like I don't have nothing. I don't have any technology. I don't have any medicine. I don't have any. All I have is God. And you mentioned about people being weak. And I think that's the purpose of a lot of this stuff is to get people to where they don't need to trust God. You think about it, if, back in the day you prayed for a miracle, right? But now you can get a miracle. You can have a Fire Stick. Think about a Fire Stick. You can just have multiple apps to watch on a TV screen. Like just think about having one television for the whole family with 2 channels. Now you got unlimited access to all of this. Like it's just.
I try to explain it to my kids, like they can't even understand. They're like, "Did you watch this when you were a kid?" And I was like, "No." What did you watch? I was like, there was like Mama's Family and like, I don't know, the Bundy guy. Like, I don't know. There wasn't like options, like, I don't know. We didn't have all this, like, my kids are like, wait, on Apple TV. Oh no, we have to, Amazon has the, oh no, How to Train Your Dragon is on here. Like they can watch whatever they want when it's time they have their time to watch TV on the weekends. After dinner, after dark, after vegetable, only on Friday, only on Saturday and Sunday. But they don't get it, like how it was for me to just they don't have any idea because they can just choose to watch what they want when they want to watch it. They pause when they go to the bathroom. I'm like, yeah, you couldn't pause when you go to the bathroom. You just have to go to the bathroom and then miss it. And they're like, oh, like when you're at the movie theater? I'm like, yeah, like when you're at the movie theater. Like my kids have all that. But that's how we are with everything. You think like we had so much reverence for the whole animal. We ate the organs, blah, 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 blah. Now we only eat the muscle. And because we have so much. And
yeah,
I think it comes down to anything under pressure is stronger. And we have not been under pressure as a people. And that's why my husband can work 10 times harder than any American. No disrespect to Americans that are going to say it's not true.
It is. People, listen, we wouldn't be in this state, Mollie, without Americans being weak. Let's just be honest. We wouldn't be in this predicament. Like we wouldn't be here. Like we wouldn't be in this predicament where, come on, man. Oh, she got frozen.
I'm back.
Okay. All right.
I mean, you watch my husband work at a festival. Like my husband can work, and you want to know why? Is he grew up under pressure, 8 kids, not enough food. Sometimes they're just eating tortillas and lard. Where did that lard come from? They rendered a pig into lard as a family. Do you think they wasted any parts of that pig? No. It's like my husband was forged in the fire of survival. And because of that, sometimes I get frustrated when I'm so stressed out about not having enough money and then how are we going to pay the mortgage and that. And he's literally like, we'll just go to Mexico and like live like kings. Like, I'll sleep in a hammock. I don't care. Like he, in some ways he doesn't care for any of this stuff. And sometimes he's like freaking out because the house is hot and the air conditioning. And I'm like, you literally grew up sleeping in a hammock. And he's like, yes. And now I work very hard to have air conditioning. But, he could just go back to Mexico and be totally okay. That's like the reality. And my husband can work so hard. And that is because he was forged under pressure. And ultimately, we are not forging ourselves under pressure. Food comes from a grocery store. We like squish 10 different things to pick the one that we want with no thought for what is going to happen to all those other ones that you squished. Like, we want all of our lemons to be exactly the same size. People like would come to my farm and they'd be like, what is going on with the lemons? And I was like, what are you talking about? They're like, what's wrong with them? And I'm like, they look fine to me. And they're like, they're all different sizes. I was like, all lemons are all different sizes and shapes. There's round ones that look more like oranges. And they're like, well, where do those go? I was like, in the lemon juice. We only get paid like 1 penny a pound for them because Americans want all their lemons to be the exact same shape. That's ridiculous. Like, why do we care? Why are farmers being punished because we want lemons to all be the same shape and size? Like that's how weak we are. We need our lemons to all be the same size. So if you go to Mexico, oranges are green because they never get cold enough for them to turn orange. And limes are green and lemons are green and they can tell them all apart. We literally harvest, limes are yellow. So limes are yellow when they're ripe. But here in America, we can't tell lemons and limes apart. So we pick them when they're not ripe so that we know that they're limes.
Is that what that is?
Yeah. Limes turn yellow just like lemons do. And when they're ripe, they're yellow.
I'll be John Brown. Are you serious?
Yes. Google it. But yes, limes turn yellow. But they don't last as long on the shelf once they're ripe as well, because they have a thinner skin than a lemon. So we pick them when they're not ripe, so they last longer. And so us Americans can tell the difference between a lime and a lemon.
So before we ask some questions, I wanted to her husband. So when she has these events at her ranch, her husband, it's not that he can work hard because he was forged in the fire. He does not stop. Like he doesn't get to sit down and actually enjoy the conference. It's like I watch her husband. I'm like, I look up, he's doing this. I look up, he's going. I look up, I'm like, literally, he's all over the ranch the entire day. And so I thought it was amazing. But to me, that's what order looks like. That's what a marriage looks like. That's what love looks like. That's what God intended. And the problem is that when there isn't purpose, when there isn't a goal, when there isn't a mission, it's hard to get submission without a mission. And so all these things going in my mind when I was at the conference, I was like, man, this is like, they say teamwork makes the dream work, but it's true. And her husband is literally like working. Now listen, we know that, Hispanics work. We know that, but it's different. It's different when you see it at an event where people are sitting down, relaxed, and listening to speakers, and you see this guy, like other people are working too, but her husband is especially working. So when she says that he works, she's not over-exaggerating. This dude is like working like nonstop all day.
The most important choice we're ever going to make in our life is who we marry. And I did not make this choice. God made this choice for me. I would not have made my ego, Mollie, would not have even registered my husband on the radar. But because I'm a good listener and I'm good at obedience, I obeyed. And best decision I ever made in my life.
Ladies, y'all hear that? Ladies, Mollie just said that she is good at obedience. No, she's obedient. She's good at
listening and obedient. I meant to God, not to my husband, but I'm good at listening and being obedient to him too. But what I was meaning is you got to get, I'm like a successful restaurateur. My restaurants are doing millions of dollars.
Your boss chick. Your boss chick.
Millions of dollars a year. He was undocumented, 13 years younger than me, working in my kitchen. And
you took advantage of him. You're a colonist.
Of course, I'm a colonist, and I'm racist too. But I wouldn't have seen him, but through God and trusting that I would not be led astray, a series of events had me marry him. And I'm so grateful because it's the best decision I ever made in my life. And it's work. Like marriage is work. It's not easy. People like think you're just going to get married. The thing is, me and my husband were not in love when we got married. We were pregnant, but we are so in love now. And we've done the work for 13 years. We keep doing the work. Yesterday on the way to Costco, I was telling Blanche, like, I tried to stop him from yelling at my son. And he was like, your feminism is still very intact. Can you just be a regular wife? And then I was like, a regular wife? What's a regular? You want a submissive Mexican wife? You know, and we're going through, and literally I went into the store. He stayed in the car with the kids. I was like, you want to go in the store? Or you want me to go in the car? Kids were sleeping. And he's like, whatever you want. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go inside and you can stay here. And when I came back out, he's like, what were you thinking about while you were in the store? And I was like, he was like, were you thinking how mad you were at me? And I was like, no, I was thinking, how are we going to get back to love when I get in the car? Because I don't want to fight the rest of the night. And he was like, yeah, that's what I was thinking too. So how are we going to get back to love? And then he was like, I'm going to let you talk for 3 minutes and I'm going to listen. And then I'm going to talk for 3 minutes and you're not going to interrupt. And then we're going to have a nice the rest of the time. And I said, okay, great. And then we went to Costco. We went out to Thai food and had a great evening with our children. And that could have been, if we weren't willing to do the work, that could have been like just mad face the whole rest of the evening. And what were we teaching our children? But instead, we taught our children that, yes, we disagree and we want to hear each other and we want to get back to love.
So we have some questions, Mollie. But
yes,
I want to say this, and I believe that the reason why you all are successful is because you decided in the beginning to be obedient. The Bible says that obedience is greater than sacrifice. And so when you decide to be obedient to God, everything's going to work out. And I think that's very powerful because you didn't rely on being the boss chick, the successful woman, the feminist, all of that. You said, I'm going to give all that up and listen to God. And it paid off.
And I detail this in my book and how it's happened. And I mean, I detail miracles with Kanye West blessing me with $300,000 when I thought there was no possible way for us to get to the next step of our life. I mean, miracle after miracle after miracle.
Yeah.
And I detail about listening to God and taking the next step. And people always ask me, how do you know what you're being called to do versus what your ego wants? And whenever you're being called, there's always some sense of sacrifice. There's always some like, this is not actually how I wanted, ego, identity, Mollie wanted it to go. And that's hard.
Listen, I would say this, Mollie, when God wants you to do something, I can almost guarantee you don't want to do it.
Yeah, I know.
I can almost guarantee it's something you don't want to do. Like, well, we had a question earlier.
Okay.
You know somebody named Bobby Parrish?
No, I saw that someone said, "Do you know his app?" But I don't know what that is.
Okay. Another question is, why would your husband complain about your feminism when he allowed you to not take his name?
He allowed me. He didn't even speak English. We got married. I didn't speak Spanish. Like, if you knew more of the background, um, you know, I don't know something funny about this. So at the last minute, when the book was about to go to the publisher, I called and asked if they could change the last name to his last name. And I was going to do it as a surprise by Mollie Sosa. And literally the publisher was like, absolutely not. You're literally famous for being Mollie Engelhart. We've put a bunch of money into this book. And they literally said no. But I was going to do that as a surprise for him. But when I married my husband, I was squarely a feminist. He had been indoctrinated by his father to never leave his children. His father and his mother both grew up with no parents. They were not perfect parents by any stretch of the imagination, but both had been abandoned by their parents. And he had been trained at every meal with his father that you don't leave your children. And I had had an encounter with God that mother, father, child was the Holy Trinity. And so we got married. And so there was no conversation of me taking his name. It was literally, I was just being obedient. And that was about as much obedience as I could muster at that moment. So
you got to crawl before you can walk, right?
Yeah, got to crawl before you could walk. My whole family couldn't believe. I mean, everybody was like, "What are you doing?" And then we lost the baby, and everybody's like, "You could get divorced. You could get it annulled. You could get it annulled. You don't have to stay." And we chose a different path. So I didn't even think of taking his name as the truth. I was still very much in the feminist conversation. And at the last minute, I asked them to put his name on the book, and the publisher said, "That's not the deal. We put up all this money. We printed the book based on your audience," and da 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 da. So, but I probably will take his name at some point. And I was trying to do it with this book, actually.
Well, that's good. I mean, it's just a question. Paul says that Bobby Parrish is very into pure foods, and he has an app that tells you which foods are healthy.
No, I don't know it, but that's cool. I'll check it out.
Any more questions?
Out because we grow all of our own food, but I will check it out. My friend Ian Carroll is also has a cool new app that shows you who owns everything. And so, because you look at these brands and they look like they're like family owned and they're cool. And then and so it's in the beta testing phase, and you can actually sign up and get it for free and test and give feedback right now. I don't know if people know who Ian Carroll is, but he stood in for Candace Owens when she was on maternity leave, and he's an influencer. But anyways, he started out his career as an influencer making videos about how your shampoo is actually made by Colgate, even though it looks like Burt's Bees is some cool like health food store thing. And so anyway, so he has an app about that. I want to be on the list. I want to sign up to be a beta tester for. But I'll check out that app. I haven't checked it out. But I know that the technology is emerging, that you're going to be able to scan your food and tell the nutrient density of it. So all of these kind of certifications are going to become null and void and not really be that important anymore, because you're going to be able to tell your food's nutrient density by scanning it with your phone.
Yeah, people are going to be disappointed to find out that most of the things on the shelf are trash.
Look at that family. How lucky am I? Even to the guy who says, "Why did I take his last name?" Is that guy married, or he's still waiting to find the perfect woman?
Who is Leandra Joni? I don't know if he's married. Molly, the red pill movement came about, and it was kind of necessary, but then it kind of, went off the rails a little bit. Now I do believe in taking a man's last name. I do believe in traditional values. However, I also believe in a happy marriage. I mean, many people take the last name and they're miserable. So, like, the marriage has to.
We've talked about this a lot. Like, would I like to be a stay-at-home mom? Yes, but am I the primary breadwinner in our family? Yes. And did we get married under those circumstances? Yes. And so it's easy to say these things, but it's harder to shift your life. In order to do, we would have to completely change our whole lifestyle, and it would be a whole different world. And my husband says if he's going to be responsible for the finances, we need to move to Mexico. And I haven't been up to do that.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think it's easy to judge other people's marriages from the outside, or to pick apart the flaws. I even called Chad about this when he called out Candace for not taking her last name. And I said, like, I think that they actually have a really beautiful marriage, and I think that they're a good example. And I think that there's better things to pick at in the world than that. And he disagreed, and he felt like, she's writing a book about submitting and getting him a sandwich, and she couldn't even hyphenate her name to be his name. And so,
yeah. So for example, yes. And I mean, you got to agree with this, right? If we're trying to send a message, and we're trying to actually go against feminism and things that actually go against God's ordained family, man, woman, and child under Christ, then her taking her husband's last name is a more powerful statement in the realm of that. Now, does her husband care? Probably not. Is it going to make or break the marriage? Probably not. But if we're talking about just the messaging and the impact of it, it does send it over the top. For example, like, you want to do with your book, you wanted to put your husband's last name, but I guarantee you write another book that's about marriage on the farm, then you'll probably, that's a good book actually, Marriage on the Farm, or Marriage on the Ranch, right? But you'll probably add his name for that book because the purpose of the book is talking about the marriage and all that stuff. But right. I mean, I get it for this book because it's your brand and this is about.
And it's the first book I ever did, so it's not
like
a guarantee that we're going to sell a bunch and everything. But no, my husband didn't. He was 23. I was 36. He literally didn't tell me anything in the beginning.
Right.
It took him like 3 years to even start to have you. I mean, I've talked to you about this before. Like, I was so indoctrinated into the liberal construct, even though I had that encounter with God about my abortions and all that. I never even tell anybody that. I assumed he was liberal because he was brown, because that's what we're taught in Karen school, which is Cal Arts or wherever I grew up in New York and lived in California. And like, literally, I was so sure that he was a liberal. Literally, he's Catholic from Mexico. Like, of course he's not a liberal, but that's what I assumed because he was brown.
Oh, so it didn't even cross your mind to even.
It didn't even cross my mind that my husband was conservative.
Yeah.
He was like, I'm going to get shirts made that says, marry a liberal, make her a conservative, live happily ever after. I said, it's a very narrow market for that t-shirt, honey.
Oh.
Oh no, you're going to sell a lot of them. We can get you one, but I'm not sure it's like a big seller.
It'd be a good podcast name, Make Her a Liberal. I mean, make her a
Make her a
conservative.
conservative, yeah.
Listen, that'd be a good podcast name, though. That'd be a great show name, make her a conservative. We have a question from Instagram.
Yeah.
Eric asked, what was the most difficult thing about writing this book?
Just getting up at 4 a.m. every morning, just like being really intentional. I did it 6 weeks, 4 a.m. every morning. And I usually get up 2 days a week to write my articles for Epoch Times at 4 in the morning, but getting up every single morning to write in the book, I think just the dedication, just like being like really on top of it. But honestly, it wasn't hard. It was as if when I decided to do it, it was just flowing through me, the information, the memories, the what needed to be said. It was almost as if it was just downloading through me.
Yeah.
It wasn't hard.
You're a writer too, though. So
I was a poet. I opened for the Roots. I'm more blacker than Candace Owens. That's a joke for anybody who didn't hear the earlier part of the conversation when someone said that to me.
Nah, folks don't get offended on this channel. They get it. Any other questions for Mollie? Because her book, we're trying to get her to get on the bestseller list.
Debunked by Nature, pre-order now. And if you guys have like a church group or a book club and you want to order a bunch, I'll do a Zoom book club meetings with people and come on, and we could do it over several weeks and do a book club. And I also have a workbook and a Bible study that's going to come out alongside of it that you'll be able to download off my website. I have a Bible study about water and nature and how that is reflected in the Bible, and also another one about agriculture and what the Bible asks of us around the land and regenerative agriculture, and how we are all disconnected and how can we reconnect in that way. And it has like weekly journaling and suggested exercises to go outside and contemplate, and weekly prayers and everything. So let me know if people want to do any kind of book club or anything like that. I'm open to that.
Do you smoke tobacco at the farm?
Me personally, I don't smoke, but I do take tobacco. Interestingly, I take 2 milligrams of tobacco several times a day. I did a blood test with that Function Health. They do like 119 markers, and biologically I'm 10 years younger than my actual age, but my stress hormones are high. Everything else was perfect. And one of the recommendations was a small amount of tobacco, 3 to 4 times a day. But I don't smoke, but we let other people smoke. I'm not anti-smoking. My mother's big on organic tobacco as a sacrament.
Now, this is the website they can get the pre-orders from, right?
Yep. And if you go to my Instagram, which is Talk to Mollie, you can go in the link tree. And also Debunked by Nature has its own Instagram.
I think I ordered mine from
Acres.
Acres, yeah.
Well, I want to thank you through the book writing process. I sent you like, hey, here's my chapter on race. How mad are people going to be? Here's my chapter on equity, diversity, and inclusion. How mad are people going to be?
So Mollie, hold on. Y'all got any more questions? You still vegan, or do you eat animal products too?
I eat bone broth, and I eat milk from my own cows. I eat yogurt. Tell
them about the diet. Tell them about
I did 46 days with just raw milk and bone broth, and I lost 40 pounds. I did all of Lent, which I don't know how I thought my whole life was 40 days and 40 nights, but it's 46 days unless you take Sundays off, which I did not do. So 46 days, nothing but raw milk and bone broth and raw yogurt that I made myself. And that was it. And I lost 40 pounds and reset my gut, my microbiome. I'm like pooping better, less cravings, not craving sugar. I had this like gut from having 4 children in my late 30s and 40s. I just couldn't, I gained weight with each child. I ate really healthy. I couldn't get rid of it and just melted off. And I don't have any pain in any of my like weight. I used to have like a little soreness in my muscles when I first wake up in the morning, when I first put my feet down on the ground, when I get out of the bed in the morning. All of that is gone. No inflammation, nothing. I feel amazing. And my whole thought was babies get breastfed and then they integrate food, and that milk causes the foundational microbiology for the rest of your life. But some of that might die off over years of processed foods. And the DNA in cow's milk is like 94% the same as human milk. And the microbiology is like in the 70% the same. So I was like, let's go, let's try it. And I did. And it was epic. I highly recommend raw milk. I think if God wanted it to be pasteurized, it would be. And I'm really tired of people gaslighting online. Like, you're stupid if you don't think milk should be pasteurized. We kill everything that's good in it when we pasteurize it.
Okay, I'm gonna do like these last couple of questions and then I'm gonna let you go. CBA student says, are you familiar with any doctors that left the mainstream model?
Yeah, for sure. Lots of them. The guy who started Function Health is Dr. Mark Hyman. I know, I mean, there's tons of doctors that are moving out of the mainstream model and realizing that it's all about our epigenetics and the mitochondria, and that they were totally tricked into believing that we need pharmaceuticals for everything. It is available on Kindle already for $9 on Amazon. You can pre-order it. It will be $15 later, but right now it's $9 for pre-order. We should do a book club.
That's not what I paid for it.
What?
It's not what I paid.
No, because you got the physical book.
Oh.
Kindle is just like you can digitally.
Oh, you were saying the Kindle price is okay.
Yeah, the Kindle price. It's $20 now. It'll be $25 when it's not on pre-order. But you have a digital version. I sent you the review copy. Pamela says we should do a book club. She means Blanchard and me and you.
She means the group.
Let's do it. Let's go.
Hold on.
What type of bone broth? I make my own bone broth here on the ranch. I do venison and I do beef bone broth. And I'm going to start doing pork bone broth for a ramen, because a lot of people have been asking for like a spicy ramen bone broth. So I'm going to start, and I've been throwing away the bones to the pigs, so I might as well try and do a ramen one. What is good for menopause? Is it in the book? No, I don't know a lot about menopause, to be totally.
No, they were saying, is that diet you were doing, is that good for menopause? I think that's what they're asking.
I think that the raw milk diet is really good for menopause, and it's good for hormonal balance, because there's so much microbiology in our gut that's informing our hormones. And I actually think that that's why I was able to have kids all the way to 30, 45, totally naturally. No, I didn't do any kind of in vitro or anything. And I think that is because I have healthy microbiology, and I think I just made it more healthy. I do think so. What was that woman that wrote the book, Good Energy? Casey and Callie Memes wrote that Good Energy book. That talks a lot about how the microbiology in your gut is deeply connected to your hormones. So I think the raw milk fast would be great for that. And we start to lose a lot of specific microbiology during menopause, which gives us that kind of thicker center section that we see a lot of women get when they get into menopause. How do you condition cows? What was the question?
How do you condition cows to stay still when you milk them? We have cows, but they're scared of me.
Are they milk cows? Are they dairy cows? I mean, so it's just training, just like a dog. You start putting them on a leash and leading them to the barn and giving them a special treat every time you. So before a cow has a baby, first baby, we start bringing her to the stand, the milking stand, giving her the extra grain, you know, touching her udder and doing those things. So by the time the baby comes, she's already knows to follow the other cows in and do the thing. But beef cows are generally much more scary than dairy cows. So I don't know what kind of cows they have, but they have to touch them and pet them and love them. Did you gain a lot of weight when you were pregnant? No, not that much, but I kept 5 pounds or 10 pounds from each pregnancy. And so it just added up over 4 pregnancies back to back. But I think I gained 40 pounds with each pregnancy.
All right. I guess that's it.
Thank you for having me on. Thank you for supporting me in writing this book. Let's do a book club once the book is out.
Let's do it. Folks in here should be getting the book. Some folks said they were going to buy the book. And I want you to talk about this one more last time. Food is medicine.
Eat your healings. We talk about sovereignty in a lot of different ways, but we forget how much power we have just by choosing what we put in our mouth. And we also have power to support farmers, which is the hardest job on the planet. 85% of them are doing a second job just to have the privilege to feed America. And so by choosing what you put in your mouth, you can choose to vote for small farms. So let's do the small farm diet, guys. Let's make the effort. Go to the farmer's market, buy your meat from somebody, order meat online from me, order sourdough bread online from me. But this Food is Medicine conference is going to be in the end of September, and it's going to be a mixture of workshops, live demonstrations, speakers, and then also we're going to do butchering classes, and then also amazing farm to table food. How often do you get to be on land where the food you're eating is literally, you can look out on the field and see the cow, and you're eating a patty melt and you can see how that cow lived. That's a special experience.
Okay, and then one more question. How old were you when you had your last child?
Don't put that last child curse on me. She wants one more. The most recent child I had at 45, and I'm still breastfeeding her, and we're hoping for one more. And I believe that that's possible.
And what age did you stop keeping them in your bed?
My 10-year-old is out of the bed, but sometimes he still comes back, and the other 3 are all still in the bed. We have 2 California Kings, and me and my husband will go to another room and make love after they fall asleep. But we don't kick them out of the bed when they're ready to want to be in the bed, out of the bed. But my husband's kind of kicked the 10-year-old out. But if we're watching a movie or something and he falls asleep, and sometimes my 5-year-old will go sleep in the 10-year-old's room so he doesn't get lonely. But essentially that's been recent. In the 10-year-old being out of the bed happened at 10 years old. So I guess the first one left the bed at 10 years old, to answer your question.
All right.
And that makes people think, oh, she's a crazy co-sleeper. But, on Monday is going to be my first night I spent away from my children since they were born.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So that guy that wants to tell me about my last name or whatever, I'm pretty dedicated. I've never spent a night away from my children. I've missed out on tons of money, tons of speaking engagements. But my parents left me with all different kinds of people. My parents were workaholics, and they left me with all different kinds of people. And it was always like some different cultural food, different weird things. I had to eat the food that thank God I was never molested or anything weird like that. But like getting punished in ways that I was never punished. It was just like, kids are used to like how their parents punish, how their parents feed. There's a stability in that. And just like not Thursday, not even knowing whose house we're staying at for the weekend while your parents are going out of town. And then you're like, oh no, I don't want, they eat miso soup for breakfast. I don't want to go there. So I just didn't want to do that to my children. And so I have never spent a night away from my children, but I'm going to DC to talk at this roundtable thing at the Heritage Foundation and going to film 2 podcasts. And I think my husband's going to be okay. And his cousin's here from Mexico to help him. And it's just 2 nights, but I've never left them. It'll be the first time.
That's crazy. That is crazy.
And I've also breastfed every single day for the last 10 and a half years. So it'll be the first time not breastfeeding.
That's even more crazy than what you just said. Breastfeeding 10 years straight is insane.
My body, my choice.
And your breasts still work. Think about it. After 10 years, they're still going.
They still work. I can squirt milk across the room right now and hit one of those ring lights that are lighting up my face right now.
You're being forward tough.
Yes, I am. That's how God made us. That's why I don't like that. Even if you want to be pro-choice, which I know your viewers don't, I don't want to use that sentence, my body, my choice. It is not preparing us for the level of surrender that is necessary to be a good mother.
So would you say that the level of surrender, would you say that starts with God and then trickles down to the husband and then trickles down to the children?
It could. That's the design. I would say that I have more faith than my husband does. And
how you got more faith in your husband and he literally walked here barefoot 2,000 miles? How you got more faith in him? He came here at 16 by himself.
True story.
Okay. So you talking about more faith in him.
I'm not saying I have more faith. I'm saying I spend more time in conversation with God. Maybe let's say it that way.
Okay.
Like I read the Bible with the kids. I have more of that relationship. And I think that he's a little traumatized by, being indigenous from Mexico. He's a little traumatized by the church. There's a lot of not so great things that happened. And so he has a lot of faith. And he prays a lot, but he's resistant to some parts of organized religion based on childhood experiences. But no, he has massive amounts of faith and he prays very regularly.
And I would also say that, he is honoring God through being a husband, though. It's not, his actions are a form of worship to God too, because I've seen the man work. Like it's divine.
And he would die for his children. He would die for me. He's faithful, devoted, dedicated. And he's actually blown away by other people that can't. We have some friends right now that looks like after 18 years, they're breaking up, and he keeps coming. I hear him come, why can't he just can't see why they can't work it out. But they should, in his mind, there should be a way that they could work it out. He wants to somehow find a path for them to stay together, because he really does believe that that's what God wants for us.
Yeah. And there is a way for them to stay together. There's a way. They may not do it, but there's a way for them to stay together.
You've been saying it was doomed for years. I've been talking to you about these friends for years, and a house divided is a house.
Oh, I know them.
No, but I've called you many times to talk about, because she's really close to me, and she's
Oh yeah,
more.
yeah,
She's
yeah, yeah.
interested in the Moorish thing. She's
Oh
like
yeah,
into the Moorish thing. She's more conservative,
oh, yeah.
and
It was soon.
she's works in the DEI space, and
Yeah, it's too ideological. Yeah,
she.
we
He got vaccinated. Said he was going to get lunch and got vaccinated. Came home.
it's
She's a
doomed.
nutritionist. She didn't want him to do it.
Oh yeah, it's doomed. It was doomed.
Like I said, this was
It was a house divided.
18 years. 18 years.
Yeah, but you understand something though. Most marriages, how can I say this? I don't believe that most married couples are happy. Not saying that you have to be happy, but I don't think that most married couples actually enjoy their marriage.
I think that people are too concerned with being happy and comfortable.
True, that could be a reason. That could be a reason.
I think. I mean, you know that I think you should just jump off the cliff and marry somebody, and that I think that you continue to find things that are not. I mean, we've talked about this. I've even had dreams about it and prayed about it and called you and said, like, Blanchard, God wants you to be married, and you keep finding flaws. And I could find 1,000 flaws every day with my husband. But it would be true. If I told you right now, he yells too much, he's short-tempered, he drinks, he eats too much sugar, he scrolls on Instagram too much when I want emotional connection, blah, blah, blah. I could tell you a bunch of stuff, right? And that would all be true. And you could be like, wow, you have a husband who's doesn't want to read the Bible and is drinks too much, and what a terrible man, right? Or I could tell you, my husband prays every day. He would die for me. He wrestled with the kids for 2 hours yesterday on the bed, like nonstop playing, throwing, giggling. Like he does father-daughter days, father-son days. He takes the kids out to ice cream. He takes the kids on special trips. He hates the Pokemon cards all over the house, and he still searches Facebook, finds the used Pokemon cards, goes and meets a random dude in a parking lot of Walmart to bring them home the trove of, Pokemon cards. My husband is incredibly dedicated. Both of those stories are true. And the question is, what story are you going to tell every day? And I'm going to tell you the story about the Pokemon and wrestling and working hard. And I'm not going to tell you that he's short-tempered and he drinks and because I'm going to continue to pray about those things. And I'm going to pray that God takes that spirit away from him. And I'm going to pray that dissolves. And it is dissolving. It's way dissolved from where it was 13 years ago. And I have to have patience, and I have to know that it's in God's time and not my time. And I have to not personalize it. Maybe there's a lesson in me not taking it personal. It doesn't have nothing to do with me, and just continue to pray for his healing. And maybe instead of worrying about his kidneys and his liver, I need to pray and surround his kidneys and liver with white light and love and God's love. And so that's my choice. What stories am I going to tell? And so I want to encourage you to marry someone and then tell the best version of that person and let her live into that. But you're going to miss out. You're going to miss out on having a family and a life if you keep finding the flaws.
I understand what you're saying, but I want you to think about the female version, the equivalent to your husband. Think about what I'm saying. The only way that your marriage worked is because you and your husband at the base level, you weren't quitters.
No, never.
You weren't, right? You weren't quitters, and you had a strong moral foundation where your husband was like, till death do us part. And then God told you, no more abortions, get married. Now, if I can get a woman that I'm talking to and she can talk, if we're having a conversation and she can just say some of those things, then there's no problem. But the problem is, Mollie, is all these women present themselves like Mollie. oh yeah, I want to be a mother and I want to do this and my husband. They all sound just like you until it has to be the action. The word has to turn to action, and that's when the real person comes out. And so I do want to be married, and I promise you that I am looking. My standards for a woman actually are not that high, Molly. I'm telling you, they're not. I'm just like God fearing, have some sense. List like it's not Molly is not deep at all, but you'll be surprised at just the girl that you look at and you be like, "What about her, Blanche?" I'll be like, "Man, you wouldn't believe me if I told you. You wouldn't believe me." So I
Well, I'm
get
going
what
to
you
pray for you to find a God-loving woman. And
and you know what, Molly, I might be limiting myself because you know what, she could be Chinese. She could be.
well, do you only date one race?
I mean, majority of my life, yes. It's only been one, yes. Majority, yes.
Why?
So,
Why is that? I mean,
Molly,
I
you know,
only dated brothers till I was 27.
yeah. So
But
we both were programmed and conditioned. Both of us, like
program condition. But I'm going to say that I would not have seen my husband except for that I was led to him. So you don't know what race your significant other is. And I just want to invite you to be in the inquiry of other races. And I don't even care about race. Race is like a stupid construct that we made up. So doesn't even matter. Why are you laughing?
because he said they present themselves like Molly and end up like Miley, swinging from a wrecking ball, sounding like a man. And Molly, what he said is 1,000% true. They all present themselves. I love the Lord. I want to be wife. I want to be submitted. And I promise you, Molly, I'm just like, your husband walked 2,000 miles barefoot.
He
There's a
was not barefoot. He had a short sleeve shirt on. It was snowing, but he was not barefoot.
Okay, he walked in snow with no jacket on. Okay, but my
16
point is,
years old. Yes.
16 years old. That type of person is built for marriage.
Yes, but consider that I was a liberal and I was a feminist and I was controlling and dominating and I came to this recognition in honoring the masculine through marriage, not before marriage.
No, Molly. God spoke to you before marriage.
Yes, but submitting and I literally bet if there was God has a recording camera somewhere, I bet there is footage of me saying that men are useless. We could have like one for every 50 women just for reproduction. Like I literally used to have this like little jingle in my head all the time that was like, I can do anything he can do better. Like literally that was me. I can do anything he can do better. Like I believed that. And I probably married my husband, if we're going to be really honest, on some level. He didn't speak English. He was undocumented. Like I probably thought I could dominate him. I was wrong. So wrong. But
Yeah,
I
that's what you
probably
did.
thought that I could marry my employee and he would have to submit to me. And literally, God had a different plan. And you know that it still comes up. It's still like, if I don't get him a plate and he's like, and I'll be like, are you really mad because I didn't get you a plate? I was talking like, and it still comes up. And I just get to recommit the next night. Like, honey, can I get you a plate? The next morning, I forget to bring him coffee. Some morning I'm writing and I'm working and I'm like, because I wake up way earlier and all of a sudden it's 6 and I didn't bring him coffee and I get a text message, coffee? Question mark. And I'm like, yes, okay, let me go be a good wife and bring him coffee. And am I happy to do it? Yes. Am I bummed that he needed to text me to tell me? Yes. But am I learning to submit in marriage, not before marriage?
Okay, But Molly, you got married though. So
I
what I'm
did.
saying
I
is,
got married. You got to get. I got pregnant on one night stand. I got married 3 weeks later. I listened to the Lord.
thank you. That is my point with all of this, is that you listen to the Lord and you are obedient. That's
But
my
the thing
point.
is that we don't honor obedience in this culture. I mean, it's not just obedience to the Lord, obedience to our husbands, obedience to nature, obedience to to basic things about being a mammal. Like literally, there's so much we need to be obedient to. You're like, wow, you breastfed for 10 years straight. Like, no, literally, that's just what there is to do if you have a baby back to back every 2 years. That's obedience.
It is. So I commend you, Molly, and really women need to hear from you, because you make it sound, you're more articulate. When I say it, I sound horrible, but you make it sound very divine and very beautiful. They need to hear from you. So if you, in your next book, um, it needs to be entitled "Shut Up and Milk the Cow" or something. I don't know. Just have a different. But they need to hear from you, Molly, because your testimony and story is not idea. It's not this Cinderella story where the guy comes, sweeps them off their feet. Your situation was it could have been really tragic.
Could have been totally tragic, but I trusted that God wasn't leading me to tragedy, like that this would not have happened if it wasn't meant. I was literally married to another man for 5 years and never got pregnant. Like I literally didn't believe that God was going to lead me to this for no reason. But it could have been tragic, sure, but it wasn't. And that is not just because it's because we did the work. And that's what needs to be done. We need to do the work. But I'm just saying that there's someone out there for you.
I agree 1,000%. And it might be more than one. And, you know what I mean? Not saying I'm just saying it may be more than one out there for me. I'm not.
I believe that if you missed the one, God's going to give you another one.
Yeah,
it's not like, but I do think that we miss out on our life waiting for the perfect something to happen. We miss out on starting a business because we're waiting for this, we're waiting for that. And I am big on jumping off the bridge and figure out how to fly on the way down. And so I just want to encourage you. It's the best thing you're ever going to do. And just want to encourage you to.
I believe that. And I believe that. I truly do. And listen, Molly, before we go, I believe that I need marriage, if that makes sense, for my life. I do. I think I'd be a lot better man and person if I was leading a woman in a family. I do. If I had those kind of responsibilities, I think I'd be a much better person.
And you have to be real. Like me and you and Chad got to argue, or like not an argument, but a discussion one time about a man should lead in all of these areas. And I said, well, I think the person in the marriage that has the best skill set for that thing should lead in that area. And that it's not going to look exactly the same in every single marriage. And it doesn't even mean, literally, we have a farm meeting every week on the farm, and we go around for 1 minute before the farm meeting, and everybody has to acknowledge or make a request or apologize for something that's happened that week. And that's how we start the meeting. And so today we were going around and my husband says, I just want to acknowledge my wife for handling all of the finances. I always dreamed of having a wife that would handle the stress of the money, and I can just work and I can just like focus on that. And she handles that. And I'm just so grateful for that. And now a lot of people, that guy that said I should have taken his name, is going to be like, well, your husband's not really leading the household, or whatever he's going to believe because of that. Well, I grew up in this country. I have better relationships and understanding about banking, about credit, about borrowing, about business starting, about LLCs, about taxes, about all of that stuff that he does. Would it make sense that I go, you're the man, you need to lead here. You just got to this country. You don't know how the system works, blah, blah, blah. That would be a ridiculous way for me to provide for my family and be in the family. Like, I obviously have the skill set in that area, the knowledge, the background of related to this country. I grew up in an entrepreneurial family. I grew up with a family that had businesses. My mother and father worked together in a business. That would be crazy. And so he's saying leadership is that if the woman is better to delegate it. Yeah. And so I'm saying that we have to understand that this is going to look different in each family. And I also just want to go back to the thing about comfort and happiness. I don't know that I'm happy all the time. I'm dedicated all the time. I'm committed to getting back to a place, a heart space of love with my husband all the time, no matter how mad I get. I'm committed to never responding to his anger with anger. Like, when he is in the upset, it makes no sense for me to get upset back. He's already being irrational or reactionary or a wound triggered. So if I do that, we're just going to prolong something. So I'm going to listen to what he's going to say, and then I'm going to come back to it later and express how I felt in the moment or what I was feeling. But in that moment, it makes no good sense for me to do that. That is something in our marriage that I'm the custodian of. I'm the custodian of being calm. And in the event that I'm an upset, my husband is definitely going to be upset in reaction to my upset, like up twice. Like, I'm upset, even if I'm not upset with him. If I'm just like upset with an employee on the farm, he's going to feel that upset and match me, right? And so I'm not going to do that, because if I do that, then we're just going to be spiraling out of control. So that's my skill set. His skill set is to push through, to organize things, to make things more efficient. I'll have this dream and this magical thinking, and he'll be like, okay, now how do we make this into an efficient thing that's actually going to work? Like, we both have what we bring to it, and we're a beautiful partnership. And it may not look like every traditional marriage, but I'm going to say that the traditional marriage of where a man goes off to work and works 12 hours a day, 6 hours, 8 hours a day, and drives an hour on either side and comes home and eats dinner and kisses his wife and his kids on the forehead and goes and watches TV. That's a made up thing from like the 50s. Prior to 1900s, the family enterprise was in the family. So if the man was a shoemaker and then the woman was cutting the shoes and he was cobbling the shoes and the kids were running around and picking up scraps.
Yeah.
The family business was an enterprise together. And that is the norm for humans. And we have shifted it where the man goes out and is gone all day and then comes back. And that is not traditional. That's just like what's happened for the last 100 years.
I mean, I agree.
I think the enterprise together with the family is traditional. And that's what we have. I bring what I bring to the enterprise, and he brings what he brings to the enterprise.
Well, you are an inspiration. I'm going to take your words. I'm going to pray.
Did you? You don't feel like I was picking on you, did you?
No.
What I want you to hear is like, I love you. I want you to be a father. I see that you could be a profound movement over a family. And I want that for you. And I believe that God wants that for you. In fact, I woke up one day with that on my heart. I had to call you and tell you.
Yes.
And I'm grateful for our friendship. I'm grateful for having a friend that thinks like-minded and also thinks differently, and that we can call each other and workshop like, I saw this on this. Is this real? Like, what do you think about this? Like, I'm just so grateful to have that friendship with you. And, you know, you could have come to the farm that day and walked around and left with Darby, and I never saw you again. And I'm just so grateful for all the years now of our friendship, and I just appreciate it and your willingness to support in all the different things that I've been doing.
Thank you, Mollie. That really means a lot. You mentioned one thing about fixing the plate. Somebody didn't fix my plate at your house, and I wasn't feeling it.
I can't speak to that. I wouldn't write someone off for not fixing a plate. I'll tell you a true story.
But hold on, but the not fixing the plate, it wasn't just, it was like other things that went along with not fixing the plate. It wasn't just one isolated incident. It's like,
I thought I fixed everybody's plate.
No, you did fix something, but specifically that person. Listen, if you were willing to fix something, then that person, because we both fixed. No, Mollie, no. That person should have fixed. They should have fixed.
I'll tell you a true story. We're in Mexico. It's my first time meeting my husband's family after it took 8 years for us to get married, to get him citizenship. We rented a house in Mexico and we're all there. And my husband's machismo gets turned up like to volume 10 when we're in Mexico. Just this, and this, I now know this right now. But this is my first time. It's my first time like managing volume 10 machismo in Mexico. First time being with his family that since he got his papers. We rented this house. His family's coming over for dinner. I make this whole dinner. I don't even cook meat. I'm vegan at the time. I'm like, cook all this meat and they barbecue and I make all this salsa and rice and beans and guacamole and set up a whole buffet. And the kids are crying and the baby needs to breastfeed. So once the food is all set up, I sit down with one kid in the high chair and one kid on the boob. And I'm feeding the one kid his quesadilla and I'm breastfeeding the baby. And I hear in Spanish behind me, like, I can't believe she didn't make him a plate. Like the women are gossiping. And then his mother and his father is like talking shit about it. And literally at this moment, there's nothing I can do. I boob out, breastfeeding, feeding a toddler in the chair, just spent 3 hours making dinner for everybody, 2 hours making dinner for everybody. And he was so mad. There was like no level, like there was nothing I could do at that moment. And he was so mad that my two girlfriends that had come with me to help with the kids and everything, because he wanted the freedom to be able to go and be with his family and not have to manage me and the kids and everything like that. So I brought two girlfriends with me that were Spanish speaking that could help with the kids. And they literally like beelined upstairs. They did not want to be in the mix. And I just like really humbly said, like, I'm so sorry. Like what you're accustomed to, what I'm accustomed to. I never saw my mother make a plate in our whole life. I felt like I was doing the best I could. I cooked the whole meal. The kids were crying. I completely get that I embarrassed you. And I did not intend to embarrass you. I was literally trying my best to make you seem like a king of kings in this new, role as a father and as a husband and everything. And I'm so sorry that I failed you. And I wish I had not failed you, and I can't take it back. And I just hope that they could see that I was caring for your children and that I made dinner. And I just had to fall on the sword.
What you described, Mollie, was beautiful. If the consolation is she fixes food for my whole family, she ain't got to make the plate. You fixed the food and you were willing to make the plate now.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that we're not talking about being perfect. We're talking about just learning and be willing to learn. You did it. I'm saying this person, though, and I know, you fixed the food. You made the food. You were fixing plates. That person should have got the plate. She didn't do what you did, slaving all day. No. So your story is Totally different.
But and what I would say about that person, and I love her, and but when someone stays single this long, and you may have a little bit of this too,
possible.
We get accustomed to certain things, and and I was the same way. I was single for 36 years, right? In her case, it's 40 something years. Like,
you mean not married? You mean not married? You don't mean single? You were dating people?
Yes, I was married once before, but I was doing whatever I wanted to do. It was the Mollie show. Mollie got to do what Mollie got to do. Mollie was in, and so it takes something to flip. I mean, there is such a good chance that I could have just been a cat lady living in my house in Granada Hills right now, like honestly, with no children. And there's such a good chance, and like, this is the dude I'm fucking right now. And then 2 years later, this is the dude I'm fucking. And like, that is so possible. And God had a different plan for me. And I thank him every day for that. But it was so possible. Like, I just want, what I'm saying is give these women a chance, because I'm telling you that I was worse than any of them. I was as liberal comes, as feminist comes. I can do anything. You can do better. Literally running inside my head. And look at me today. I'm out here writing a book about how nature is conservative, how masculinity is necessary, right, how transgenderism does not exist, how you can't be born in the wrong body, how birthing a child is the closest you're going to be to God, and please do it sober. I'm out there saying that and doing that. And I still make mistakes. I shut my husband up from yelling at my son yesterday. And I relate to our kids as the child I pushed out of my body, and he relates to them as men he needs to prepare for the world. And we're both right. And we both have our place. But I can't interfere with his place.
Amen. Ms. Gray said it's love and it's duty. So yeah, I think you should be talking to these women, Mollie. I mean, obviously after the bestseller stuff and the podcast.
Let's get this bestseller.
Yeah, after all the Joe Rogan.
Well, I mean, if this book does well, I'm sure I'm going to have opportunities to talk to women all around the world. And I'm starting my own podcast. So when we do that, I'll come back on and we'll get people to find out about it. But I'm going to be talking about all of this in my podcast every week.
This was my point, Mollie.
What's the point? Mollie, you had an encounter with God first. The mistake women make is that y'all think all women are good and capable, but that's not true. No, I don't. Women are just as capable of being. I have people all around me. I tell people all the time, like, stop it. Like, people say they want love, marriage, children, but they want a Pinterest board. They want some.
You're right.
They don't want to give kids a bath 7 nights a week and brush naughty hair and breastfeed and read books and get up in the middle of the night and clean up vomit sheets. And that they want, like, oh my God, look. Oh, baby bump picture. Like, that's all cute, but like, it's not life. Life is picking up dirty socks and dirty pants over and over that are right next to the hamper. And you can be like, well, I don't understand. I could do that. Or I could just be like, it is my greatest joy to be married to this man and pick up his socks and his pants and put them in the hamper. And he works so hard all day. And if he is so tired that all he can do is drop his pants right there, I can be grateful that I can pick them up. I can be grateful that I'm strong enough and healthy enough to pick them up.
Amen. I mean, amen. You have a great outlook. I mean, you got a great outlook.
Well, if you don't have a great outlook, you're going to be divorced.
So
I say that my father taught me a great lesson. He said, you can be right and be alone, or you can be willing to compromise and you can be with someone. And that's the truth. Like, there's always going to be a trade-off. There's always going to be a trade-off. Nothing is perfect.
I agree. You're gonna have to give. You're gonna have to give something.
You think that, like, when I left California and came to Texas, it's all up benefit? No, there's a trade-off. The weather's not as good. The food is not as good. The people are not as conscious about a lot of things that are important to me. That, you know, and there's freedom. And I built a restaurant for the same amount that it would cost to just get permits for a restaurant. You know, there's ups and there's downs. My kids are not going to be confused about how many genders there are. It's just two genders. So, you know, that there's always going to be a trade-off.
I agree. And I guess what are we willing to trade off? Are we willing to, you know?
Yeah. And that's the question. And when it comes to a family, when it comes to an intact family, I'm willing to trade a lot. And women get so mad. I did a post, I don't know, a little while ago. I was like putting my makeup on. I did not think it was going to be upset. And I talked about not responding to your husband's upset. Like, if your husband yells at you, getting upset in response to him doesn't make any sense. And what if he's yelling at you because you are the one safe place that he can be upset all day? He's got to deal with the employees and deal with this and or if he's an employee, that he has to deal with his boss, and he can't yell at any of those people. And the one safe place that he can get that wound, yucky feeling that he's carrying out is on you. Now, can you hold space for your husband's wound, for your husband's uckiness? And can you just like hold space and be that? Or are you going to be your wound in reaction? And I want to invite us to not be your wound in reaction. And I then went on to say that I have so many friends that don't have any husbands and don't have any children and wish they did. And I suspect that they're not good at holding space for someone else's wound. And if we could just hold space for other people's wounds, then we probably would have children and we wouldn't be 45 wondering how did we get to this point with no children? And they lost. People were like, I'm going to pray for you. I feel like you're in an abusive marriage. No, everybody gets frustrated some days. Everybody yells some days. And if they don't, they're just suppressing it and they're going to get cancer someday. So like literally there's no good outcome. Like people have to express themselves. My brother is the most happy-go-lucky guy. He's jolly and cheerful. And one day my Uncle Scott just pushed him the wrong way. And my brother bossed up. Like I thought they were going to go in a fist fight. And I was like, literally, is my brother going to fist fight my uncle right now? And it didn't happen. He calmed down and my brother apologized and said, I'm sorry, I couldn't hold space for your wound at that moment. But the truth is, everybody gets upset some days, no matter how much training you have. And each of us have different amounts of training on how to deal with that. But women lost it. Like, you're in an abusive marriage. You're justifying your abusive husband, blah, 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 blah. And you know what? I've been married for 40 years. My husband has never yelled at me.
What?
And I'm like, yeah, well, who is he actually fucking? Like that, it just doesn't make, because if you're committed to something, you're passionate about it. And if you're passionate about something, when I'm upset in my marriage, it's because I feel like it's not working and there's nothing more important to me than my marriage to work. And I also want to say to single women out there, please don't encourage your married friends to leave. Please don't be like, oh, if he does that, I get no. Do not do that. Just talking to someone the other day, and she's like, oh, my girlfriend, she has a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old, and she's going to leave him, and he cheated, and enough is enough. And I said, like, well, that sucks that he cheated, and I think that he should not have, and it's not godly. It's not what he committed to. But with a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old, do we think that the best option is for them to get divorced? Maybe you should encourage that they give it a little. They've only been married 2.5 years. They have 2 children. I think that that's a big change for everybody. And I think we should encourage them to have a little bit. Oh, I think she's done. I understand that's what she's saying, but who are you being as the community? I want to invite women to be a space for, have you tried this? Are you willing to look at this? Can you see it from his perspective? Can you be compassionate? Were you possibly asleep to the sexual part of your marriage? Were you possibly phoning it in?
Right.
And I think that we have to be willing to have those honest conversations with our girlfriends.
That's what I liked about Kevin Samuels. One of the things is that women would call in saying they want to get a divorce. He never said get a divorce, ever. He would always give them a scenario and tell them to stay with their husband. Like, and so, and I'll be honest with you, Mollie, I never really thought about marriage like that until my political views changed and I don't know. Then I started seeing like it was a necessity. I started seeing the beauty of it, the purpose of it, and all these things. So yeah, Mollie, I do agree with you, and I do hear you. I'm going to pray tonight, do some self-reflecting, but she's going to have to submit to God. I mean, she has to, and that's just.
Yeah, I for sure think that. I just, and I think those are valid things to choose in a woman. I have a friend recently that married somebody who I think is well yoked for him and physically they like to do the same things. But the person he was seeing right before that was like devout, wanted to be a mother, accepted him exactly the way he was and exactly the way he wasn't. And it was baffling to me, but that he chose somebody different. And not that I don't like this other person. I like her. She's beautiful, whatever. It's just, it's going to be more work. It's going to be more,
right. It's going to be more work on top of it.
The other person was totally okay with the way that he was. There was no expectation. Like, we could build together. I want to be a mother. But it wasn't like, before I'm going to have a baby, I need this and this. We need a new house. Yeah. And so but in my assessment, it seemed odd, but what's important to me might be totally different than what's important to him. Like, I have no idea what's important to him. I mean, I do have an idea. He's one of my best friends, but it's what is important to me is like faith in God, good mother, you know, and unconditional love that chooses him just the way that he is and just the way that he isn't, and not wanting massive change, because humans don't change. We change incrementally. We change little by little over time. But if you're like marrying someone and then you're like, I see where you are, but where I need you to be is over here, that's a big jump for someone to make. But what's important to me is different than what's important to him. Chad, oh, I love him. You know, he wrote like the most beautiful. My publisher said that it was the best blurb of anybody that anybody wrote for the book. It was his favorite, most well thought out blurb for the book. But thank you, Chad.
And think about Chad though. Chad got married at what, 20 years old? Like, and I talked to Chad about that, where he said he was homeless for a period of time, and then right after that he got his head right, and then he got married. But even Chad is hope and an example. Like, I look at Chad as well. You know, he got married young, still married with 4 children. I couldn't even imagine being married at 20. My goodness.
And it take like what Chad did is different than what I'm doing, but
Yeah.
I think about that. My husband married me at 23. So he's growing into the man that he is.
Right.
And I was already so formed in who I was. And I had to dismantle who I was. And he had to grow into who he had to be. And imagine though, if I had just walked away. Oh, he drinks too much. Oh, he doesn't speak English. Oh, he's talking to some girl in Mexico on FaceTime, like whatever. Like I literally, it was not perfect, but I would say that it is as close to perfect as I could have asked for now. But we did the work together and we shifted, and we still have old habits come in, and we hold space for that. Sometimes my husband literally says, the suffering from my childhood, I feel it in me today. And I just want you to know that I might be a little prickly. And then I can be like, oh, thank you for letting me know that. I'll be more mindful in how I interact with you. But we didn't start at that.
Yeah.
Believe me, there was like the prickly, the suffering from his childhood was there, and then I ask a question, and the next thing you know, we're spun out. But honestly, the thing is I knew God wanted me to be married to him. I knew it. That was the reality. I knew that was what I was to obey. And he loves to try to find a reason. Like he'll say, why did you really marry me? He always asks, like he always wants me to say, like I was escaping this guy, George, I was with before him. And he's always like, cause you're escaping George. And every time I'll never acknowledge like that insecurity that he's saying. I always say, cause God wanted me to, and God was right. And that's every time when he says, tell the truth, you were just married because of this. I always say, because what God wanted me to, and God was right. And that is, I have known that from the day one, and that is what I stayed in.
I mean, that's beautiful. It is. I'm gonna pray, Mollie. I won't say anything. I'll say I'm gonna pray. I'm gonna pray for patience. I'm gonna pray for understanding. I do have some non-negotiables though, but I'm still gonna pray. And
I would consider that you open yourself up and ask God, stop with your non-negotiables, and you ask God to show you the woman. Like you're saying that, but what if my husband had non-negotiables, or what if I had non-negotiables?
The non-negotiable is God though. Like that's the
okay, but I'm just saying it would have been totally normal for me to have a non-negotiable that we have to speak the same language.
I don't even care about that.
Okay, I'm just saying you see what I'm saying? Like, no, you care because you're a philosopher. I'm a philosopher. It was very hard to not be able to speak to my husband for years. That was hard.
would learn the language. She could be from. I would learn the language. Mollie, you don't know what's out there. It is the savage. You ever heard the Badlands? It's the Badlands, Mollie. Listen, I'm telling you, if she's God-fearing and she got all her limbs working and she speaks another language, then I'm cool. I'm telling you, it ain't.
Do you, is there an age requirement?
I mean, she's gonna have to be, I'm sorry, but I want to have children. So unless she's doing what you did.
I had an idea, but she's young. She's like 21.
Unless she got her microbiomes together and she's older, unless her gut health is to the where she can have a child, then probably not. She got to be younger. I'm just being honest with you.
I know this was a younger person I was thinking of. Okay, well, I'm gonna pray on it as well, and I'm just gonna vision that God's gonna put that perfect person in your path, and I so appreciate you, and I can't wait to do our book club. Let's get Chad on our book club too. Okay. I appreciate you guys. What happened now?
6'7" said, podcast said, Keisha underwater Blanche. I had a ring to it. Oh, it had a ring to it. You can swim to the right. That's a non-negotiable. It's a thing I did. It's a couple of It's not inside, but he's referencing a video from back in the day. But yeah, Mollie, thank you for coming on today, and thank you for making me think about my life and my expectations. I'm listening to you, even based on you and your husband when you said when he gets upset, you can't match his upsetness. Like, yeah.
There's no benefit there. It
Right.
makes no sense. It's like literally non-logical. If one person is upset, for the other person to get upset in response, there's no logic there.
Right. So yeah, Mollie, I want to thank you for coming today. You all be sure to go out there and get the book.
And come to this. Blanche, you should come to this.
I should. Hold on. Book first.
Dad said he might come down for the party. I don't know. He was like, "Are you having a party?" And I said, "Yes." I don't know if he said he might come. And he was like, "When?" And then I told him. But Saturday night, we're going to do the book release party.
In September, right?
Yeah. That weekend. That Saturday night. Of that weekend.
Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you for spending the evening with me.
All right. Thank you.
Take care.
Y'all say bye to Mollie. Mollie, we love you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. I hope you all enjoyed the show today. I sure did. Thank you, All Production, for the super sticker. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thank you again for the super sticker. I really appreciate it. Listen, y'all, I love y'all. And I don't know about Bandera, but listen, y'all, I love y'all. And it's good to talk to people and get other perspectives and be willing to listen and hear them out. When my friends tell me something, I always take it into consideration. I always pray about it. I always talk to God about it. So I'm glad she did talk to me about relationships in the end. I have some things to think about. But listen, I love y'all, and I will see you all Saturday. All right, y'all.